Chapter 1158. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Si Xian looked at Chen Hao speechlessly. After a few seconds, she said, "You've cultivated the great change technique to the ultimate transformation. I don't have that ability. No matter how I disguise myself, I'll be exposed once I fight. I might as well not disguise myself. Besides, it's fine to disgust others, but why should I disgust myself, like this?" Buzz. As Si Xian spoke, the aura around her suddenly changed. Fuck, Chen Hao, who was staring at Si Xian, knew that Si Xian was disguising herself, but her disguise made Chen Hao's balls hurt. It was obviously a prank. With a swish, Chen Hao quickly retreated. "Please, you don't have to disguise yourself as a fat woman. Do you have to be so disgusting? Look at me, although I've become a little fatty, am I not quite cute?" Chen Hao said while resisting the urge to vomit. Buzz. Is there a difference? Si Xian's aura shook again, and she immediately changed into her original appearance. She stared at Chen Hao. "Fine, up to you. Everyone has a love for beauty. Men were not willing to disguise themselves as ugly, let alone women. It was only possible when they had no other choice. But now, it was obviously not to that extent. Si Xian naturally would not listen to Chen Hao's suggestion and disguise herself as a fat woman. 1 month later. Supreme Heavenly Law. Our vast thousand worlds may not be worse than the great world of CND, but the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the aura of the heavenly law are far too weak. Si Xian said. This is normal. The great world of CND is open to all the vast thousand worlds and has gathered the top geniuses of countless vast thousand worlds. Naturally, it has gathered thousands of fortunes. Coupled with the accumulation of countless years, its foundation is simply not comparable to the vast thousand worlds that we have just unified. The same supreme heavenly law, but we can sense it more clearly here, and it's easier for us to comprehend. Chen Hao said softly. Yes, that's why I've come to the right place. That's hard to say. Why is it hard to say? This was already very obvious. Even if it was purely cultivation, it would be faster than cultivating in ancient chaos. You're young, and people look at you in a new light wherever you go, but what about me? 3 lives, endless cycles of reincarnation. They all started from the lowest level, with nothing to rely on. They cultivated step by step, spending tens of millions of years. And it was all for you. Cough cough. You can't say that. I just happen to be the person in Senior Yilan's divination. Isn't your cultivation method just to increase your own strength? Trying to shirk responsibility, little fatty? Fuck, you're really cute like this. I don't feel any pressure. Si Xian reached out to pinch Chen Hao's chubby face, but her hand was slapped away by Chen Hao. Master does indeed have a reason for wanting me to increase my strength, but do you think that kind of cultivation is really necessary? If Master had given me a unique cultivation environment, I could have fused 3 lives at a very young age. At that time, I would have come to the great world of CND. With my aptitude, what could I have obtained? What would I be like now, tens of millions of years later? Si Xian asked in succession. From what you're saying, you want me to bring in Qi. Chen Hao's expression suddenly changed. A golden light flashed between his eyebrows and wrapped around Si Xian. Si Xian didn't resist at all and was directly integrated into Chen Hao's mental world. This wasn't the first time. Si Xian knew what she was about to face. In the past month, the two of them had met 7 times. This was the 8th time. Hiss. The moment Si Xian was sucked into the mental world, Chen Hao's body shook. His fat buttock seemed to swing back and forth 1,000 times in an instant. With a buzz, he disappeared on the spot. Clearly, he had pushed the great teleportation art to the extreme. Roar. It was also at this moment that a huge monster tore through the void. A terrifying pressure instantly filled the entire space. Its huge body radiated crystal light in all directions, covering the sky and the sun. Chi 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 chi, streaks of terrifying lightning suddenly spurted out from the mouth of the huge monster. The space within tens of millions of miles was annihilated. Mountains collapsed and the earth caved in. Buzz! Chen Hao's body shook and suddenly appeared tens of millions of miles away. In a flash, he disappeared again. Roar! Rumble! In the void, the huge monster that was tens of thousands of feet long and hundreds of feet thick suddenly let out a resonant angry roar. Little fatty, you can't run away. Obediently surrender to this Dragon King and offer your blood essence to spare your life. Otherwise, when this Dragon King catches you, there will be nothing left of you. Roar! Chi 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 chi, the huge monster roared and chased in the direction of Chen Hao. It spoke in human language and revealed a domineering aura. With a long roar, endless lightning bloomed. In an instant, it arrived at the place where Chen Hao's body flashed. This huge monster was the primordial divine dragon that had gone extinct in the ancient chaos world. It was a thunder dragon with the lightning attribute. Damn you, Thunder Dragon King, spare me. My body is not even enough to fill the gap between your teeth. Do you really care about that little bit of blood essence? You are at the fourth heaven of the cutting Dao stage. Why do you have to chase after me, a small Daoyuo Jingxian? If others see you, where will you put your face? Chen Hao pushed the great teleportation technique to the limit. Roar 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 roar. Face? Little fatty, this Dragon King's mission is to kill you outsiders who sneak in. It's useless to say anything. This Dragon King has taken a fancy to your immortal blood essence. Obediently give it to this Dragon King. Otherwise, there will be nothing left of you. Fuck. Damn you, do you think I'm stupid? If you have the ability, then catch me. If you can't, then agree to my request. Let's mind our own business and go our separate ways. You don't trust this Dragon King? Little fatty, I promise that I won't reveal your secret. I also don't want your immortal treasure. I only want your blood essence. Fuck off. I'd be a fool to believe you. You black-hearted guy. Damn it, this Dragon King is a man of his word. Moreover, this Dragon King can directly recommend you to enter a first-rate academy. Damn it, how many times do I have to say it before you understand? Don't waste your breath. Either you catch me and I'll let you punish me, or you do as I say. Look, the city is in sight. Roar. The Thunder Dragon King was shocked when he heard Chen Hao's words. He immediately let out an even more terrifying roar. Endless lightning covered the sky and rushed toward Chen Hao. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Do you think this will work? Buzz. Chen Hao's voice floated in the void. His fat butt suddenly trembled thousands of times. The great teleportation technique suddenly increased by several times. What? Little fatty, stop right there. I promise you. There's no need to stop. The agreement is in effect. Who knows if you'll eat me in one bite? Chi. Chen Hao was as fast as lightning. In a flash, he crossed hundreds of millions of miles. Although he spoke casually, his fat body trembled and he broke out in cold sweat. It could be said that he had pushed his strength to the limit. If he was a bit slower, he believed that he and Si Xian would become food on the treacherous Thunder Dragon King's plate. Si Xian, who was in Chen Hao's mind world, also broke out in cold sweat. Her pretty face was pale. Little fatty, the Thunder Dragon King was furious, but when he saw the little fatty who could cross hundreds of millions of miles with a shake of his butt, he finally shut up. The Thunder Dragon King was a fourth-stage Dao Severing cultivator, one of the guardians of true martial city on planet Gargantuan. Chen Hao and Si Xian tore through the chaotic space barrier and appeared in the wilderness of true martial city. They happened to meet the Thunder Dragon King. Any cultivator who snuck in from the chaotic space and was lower than the third heaven of cutting Dao True Immortal had to pass the City Guardian's test to qualify to enter the city. The fourth heaven of cutting Dao True Immortal could enter directly. The test was very simple. As long as the snuck-in cultivators' battle strength reached the average level of the great world of CND, they would be allowed to enter regardless of their origin. Chen Hao and Si Xian already knew this when they came to the great world of CND. With Chen Hao and Si Xian's battle strength, they should have passed the Thunder Dragon King's test smoothly. However, Chen Hao and Si Xian didn't expect that the Thunder Dragon King would covet Chen Hao's bloodline aura and have evil intentions. If Chen Hao hadn't cultivated the great teleportation technique to the ultimate level and had soul power, mental state, and willpower that exceeded his cultivation level, he would have been eaten by the Thunder Dragon King. This was the fourth heaven of cutting Dao True Immortal. How strong was that pressure? The strongest pressure was released, and Si Xian was directly imprisoned. She couldn't even move. However, what was Chen Hao's strongest point? Enduring pressure. Chen Hao, who had experienced the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land and the Ancient Chaos Domain, had the ability to endure pressure that exceeded his cultivation level by countless times. When the Thunder Dragon King released his pressure and thought that he had defeated Chen Hao, who seemed to be imprisoned, suddenly went crazy. He took Si Xian into his mind world and activated the great teleportation technique to the limit to escape. This time, while the Thunder Dragon King was shocked, he also obtained Chen Hao's secret. This little fatty from the Daluo Golden Wonderland actually had a great world in his mind. Apart from having an extremely powerful true immortal magic treasure, what else could he have? The Thunder Dragon King became even more excited. He believed that he still had the ability to blackmail Chen Hao. This kind of thing definitely went against the highest law set by the ruling class of the great world of CND. However, as a guardian who specialized in testing illegal immigrants, when he encountered something that moved his heart, he often did this kind of thing that went against the law. He would directly blackmail it, and no one would notice. However, what the Thunder Dragon King didn't expect was that he, a fourth heaven cutting Dao True Immortal expert, had chased him for a month and got close to him 8 times. However, he still let him escape. Moreover, it was to the point of no return. The city was in sight. In the Thunder Dragon King's opinion, with this little fatty's shocking talent, he would definitely become a character in the great world of CND in the future. His potential was limitless. Once he entered the city, he would definitely be fought over by the various large factions. At that time, as long as the little fatty said that he had violated the law, he would definitely be in trouble. Fortunately, the little fatty didn't seem to want to expose the fact that he had a great world in his mind. He negotiated with him, and no one sued the other. Chapter 1159. Chen Hao did not expose the fact that the Thunder Dragon King had violated the laws and plotted against him. The Thunder Dragon King kept his mouth shut about the fact that Chen Hao had a great mental world in the Daluo Golden Wonderland and pretended that nothing had happened. At the last moment, the Thunder Dragon King had no choice but to compromise. The great world of CND was a world with perfect laws. Every place and every city had a large number of law enforcement troops. Even if a perfected immortal king was found to have violated the laws, he would be killed. Not to mention, the Thunder Dragon King was a city guardian at the fourth firmament of the Dao Severing Stage. Of course, these laws were set by the ruler of the great world of CND, just like the laws on Earth. However, the main purpose of the laws set by the ruler of the great world of CND was to create the best martial cultivation environment and to a large extent prevent the chaotic phenomenon of geniuses being strangled. Only then would the top geniuses of the other greater kiliacosms dare to come over with peace of mind and gather supreme providence for the great world of CND. However, it was impossible to completely eliminate it. The secret actions driven by benefits, the protection and even connivance of the powerful figures, the loopholes in the laws, and so on, if one was really naive enough to think that nothing would happen if they did not look for trouble, then it would really be a tragedy. As someone from Earth, Chen Hao could easily see through the situation in the great world of CND. It was just that the mortals on Earth had been replaced by powerful cultivators. Captain, a pair of Dao companions have passed the Thunder Dragon King's test. In the encampment palace at the west gate of the true martial city on planet Great Hua, a cultivator at the fifth firmament of the Dao Severing Stage looked at the other cultivator in surprise after receiving the message from the token. These two people were the captain and vice-captain of the guards at the west gate. The one who spoke was the vice-captain. Oh. The captain was slightly surprised and immediately said, "Is the potential evaluation very high?" "That's not it. It's just that this pair of Tao companions is very special." Hiss. The vice-captain passed the token to the captain. After the captain read the information that the Lightning Dragon King had transmitted from the token, he immediately revealed a surprised expression. He immediately said, "He is indeed very special. This little fatty might be able to let us earn a commission. It's a pity that this woman's life aura is a little too old. Otherwise, she would definitely earn more than this little fatty." That's right. Little Fatty's life aura was less than 20,000 years old, but his battle prowess was already above the average of those in the same realm. He would definitely have no problem entering a second-rate academy. This girl was old. Otherwise, with her primordialine body and her looks, she would have been qualified to enter a second-rate academy. Furthermore, there's a chance that you'll be specially recruited by a big shot. That would be a huge gain. In the great world of CND, the clans and sects were on the decline. The strongest were the academies, which were divided into 5 levels. From high to low, they were, First Academy of the Immortal Emperor, Top Academy, First Academy, Second Academy, and Third Academy. The First Academy of the Immortal Emperor, as the name implied, was the highest level of the academy. However, it was not a fixed academy. In the competition between the top academies that occurred once every 1,000 years, whoever was the strongest would be the First Academy of the Immortal Emperor. This was a name that flowed like a red flag. Most cultivators were concentrated in the Third Academy. Those who were able to enter the Second Academy were basically geniuses with higher potential. For someone like Chen Hao, who was able to reach the average battle prowess of the Daluo Golden Wonderland at his age, there was no doubt that he would be favored by the Second Academy. It was a pity that Si Xian was too old, which lowered the evaluation of her potential to a large extent. Yes, it is a pity. Since we're almost there, let's go down and take a look. After the two of them finished speaking, their figures directly disappeared from the palace at the city gate. In a moment, they arrived at the entrance of the city gate. Dozens of Dao Severing perfected immortal guards stood on both sides of the city gate. When they saw the captain and vice-captain arrive together, they immediately bowed and saluted. Their gazes were filled with curiosity as they looked outside the city gate. They clearly knew what the captain and vice-captain's appearance meant. It was definitely a valuable outsider who had arrived. Otherwise, they would not have bothered to come. Guarding the city gate was a lucrative job. Under normal circumstances, cultivators who entered from outside the city were all outsiders who had smuggled in. Although the great world of CND did not reject such behavior, the conditions for the smugglers to obtain the qualifications to enter the city and become a member of the great world of CND were much higher than cultivators who had entered through the proper channel of the Hongmeng region's Star River Tunnel. Through the proper channel, as long as you came and registered, you would be able to start your life in the great world of CND. There were no requirements for the cultivator's cultivation level and strength. However, the smugglers who had to hide their origins had to reach the average battle prowess of the same cultivation level in the great world of CND. Otherwise, they would not be able to pass the test of the Thunder Dragon King and the other guards. It was also precisely because of this that the outsiders who passed the test would basically obtain the qualifications to enter the academy. Of course, the Third Academy was where most people ended up. The guards in charge of the city gate often had unspoken deals with the academies in the city. By introducing a cultivator with better potential to participate in the selection of the academy, they would be able to obtain certain benefits. The higher the potential of the cultivator who was introduced, the greater the commission they would receive. For academies that had a competitive relationship, the most fundamental competition started from the talents. The captain and vice-captain would only appear when an outsider who had the potential to enter the Third Academy appeared. They were too lazy to appear in the Third Academy. Chi! A moment later, two figures appeared in front of the guards. What a beautiful woman! The Supreme of Hongmeng, Daluo Jingxian. Fuck, this little fatty is so lucky. Daluo Jingxian managed to get the supreme beauty of the Supreme of Hongmeng. Amazing. It's a primordial yin body. Cough cough. No way, her life aura is so old. Fuck, this little fatty is very young. Dozens of Dao-severing perfected immortals stared straight at Chen Hao and Si Xian, who were flying quickly from afar. At first glance, many people were stunned by Si Xian's appearance and figure even before they sensed her aura. When they sensed the aura of the two people, they were surprised that the ordinary-looking little fatty could get the heart of a beauty who was a realm higher than him. That kind of feeling was like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung, or a toad eating a swan. However, as they got closer, everyone finally understood what was going on. The little fatty was definitely a very good genius, while Si Xian's appearance, figure, and temperament were first class, but her potential was very ordinary. Greetings, officers and seniors. When the two people quickly landed in front of everyone, Chen Hao's chubby face suddenly turned into a blooming chrysanthemum. He smiled brightly and flatteringly, let go of Si Xian's hand, bowed with cupped fists. Chen Hao's actions made Si Xian frown. Was this really Chen Hao, the god of slaughter who dominated the ancient chaos? I was delayed by something today. Finished updating. The first update has arrived. Dark Mountain continues. Chapter 1160. But it was also because of Chen Hao's flattering smile that Si Xian, who knew this guy's true strength, potential, and character, felt her hair stand on end, a knife hidden in a smile. He probably wouldn't spit out the bones if he ate someone. Little fatty, lady, congratulations on passing the Thunder Dragon King's test. From now on, you have the qualifications to cultivate and live in the great world of CND. Report your names, this record will be your identity information in the future. Yes, sir. My name is Li Yuan, this is my Dao companion, Chen Hao. Chen Hao bowed, smiled, and said. Use a fake name. This was what Yilan told him. Chen Hao didn't think that his name would be famous in the great world of CND, but he still listened to Yilan's suggestion. Because of the identity of the Shao clan's ancestor. Yilan didn't say much about the specific situation. As for Si Xian, who ran away from home, she naturally used a fake name. Tens of millions of years ago, the pressure Yi Xian brought to the Shao clan's ancestor was extraordinary. The name Si Xian definitely couldn't be used, although Chen Hao also didn't think that a small character like them would cause any waves. Si Xian's face turned slightly red when she heard Chen Hao's words. Although the two of them had already discussed before coming to the city gate, when she heard Chen Hao's introduction, she still felt a little embarrassed. Of course, Si Xian also knew that pretending to be Dao companions would save her a lot of trouble. If it wasn't for the primordial yin body, it would be even better. But that was impossible. The third life was still bitterly cultivating in the ancient chaos. If she lost her primordial yin body before the fusion, her strength after the fusion would be greatly reduced. More importantly, she and Chen Hao were still worlds apart from being Dao companions. Everyone had a moment of pride in their hearts. Sometimes, the subconscious would always find the best excuse to deceive their true feelings, but the bystanders could see it clearly. Until now, Si Xian still didn't think that her original body had fallen. When she followed Chen Hao to the great world of CND, she subconsciously found a lie to deceive herself. The sooner she came here, the faster she would improve, and the stronger she would be in the future. Her heart was always on Chen Hao, but she thought that it was because of Chen Hao's abnormal talent, and she was just curious. But what was the truth? Just like now, when she heard Chen Hao say that she was his Taoist companion, her face would turn red and her heart would ripple. However, she thought that it was a natural reaction of a woman to this kind of thing. But he didn't realize, or perhaps he didn't care, that there was no rejection in the depths of his heart. Those closely involved could not see clearly. This kind of subtle feeling could only be awakened when one experienced something or experienced a great wave. It was like a man and a woman who lived together day and night. They never thought that they had any feelings for each other, but when they were suddenly separated for a period of time, or when they tried to pursue their true love several times, their minds would be completely occupied by each other's figure. It was not until then that they would suddenly wake up. Li Yuan, Qin Si. Chi. Buzz. The guard captain directly took out 2 tokens and integrated 2 pieces of information into each of them. Immediately, he sent them in front of Chen Hao and Si Xian. This is your identity token. Drop a drop of blood and refine it. In the future, you will be able to walk in the great world of CND. Little fatty, your talent and potential are not bad. Your Taoist companion is excellent in all aspects. The only flaw is that her life force is too old. If you want to enter an academy, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. The old man thinks that you are very pleasing to the eye. This is for you. With the old man's token, perhaps you will have hope of entering the Green Immortal Academy together. It is a very good second-rate academy. Captain, at this moment, the vice-captain suddenly looked at the captain and shouted in surprise. It was as if the captain had done something very painful. It's okay. I think this little fatty is very pleasing to the eye. It can be considered a kind of fate. What is a little favor? The captain waved his hand to stop the vice-captain and smiled at Chen Hao. Chen Hao just looked at the captain in surprise, as if he didn't understand the situation. Si Xian, on the other hand, was slightly excited. Second-rate academy, according to her estimation, she would be able to enter a third-rate academy. Little fatty, why are you still not thanking the captain? This is a great favor, you are very lucky to have our captain's favor. Ah. Thank you, Captain. How should I address you? This little one will remember it in his heart. In the future, I will repay you. Hearing the vice-captain's words, Chen Hao suddenly seemed to wake up from his daze. He immediately said with tears of gratitude. He was so excited that his hands trembled a little as he took the token from the captain. The old man does not ask you to repay him. There is no need to mention his name. All right, go. When the time comes, hand it over to the examiners of the Green Immortal Academy. The old man's face should be useful. Yes, yes, a good person. Si Xian, we have met a benefactor. Senior, I will come to see you. Chen Hao bowed again. His eyes were brimming with tears as he pulled Si Xian, who was also very grateful to the captain. He turned around and stepped into the city gate. This little fatty is really a sentimental person, ha. A little interesting. Captain, I think this kid will definitely come back to repay you in the future. That look of gratitude, haha. That Qin Si is not as simple as she looks. She has lived for tens of millions of years and has a body of primordial yin, but her face does not have the slightest bit of aging. Her vitality seems to be in its twilight years, but there is a faint trace of vitality. Oh. Impressive, Captain's eyesight seems to have improved again. I did not sense anything. The vice-captain was slightly surprised. However, it is indeed a little strange. I did not feel it when I saw the image, but when I looked closely, this woman's face did not have the slightest trace of aging. Tens of millions of years, even we have become like this. However, she must have consumed some powerful spirit medicine. Yes. It must be. Otherwise, she would have already reached the cutting Dao stage and would not have wasted tens of millions of years. Even if she came to the great world of CND, the gains would not make up for the losses. If the guards of the city gate wanted to get enough benefits, they must have good eyesight. And the captain's eyes were undoubtedly sharp, much stronger than the lightning dragon king's. Otherwise, he would not have been able to see through Si Xian's abnormality. On the wide streets of true martial city, countless cultivators of different realms looked at the 2 figures that appeared in the city. Chen Hao, who had transformed into a little fatty, did not seem to feel anything. He simply did not care about the crowds pointing and whispering. He only pulled Si Xian, and like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden, he was full of curiosity and excitement as he paid attention to the palaces that stood on both sides of the street. It was filled with rare spirit item shops, soft armor, special treasures, rune shops, divine weapons shops, strange items shops, pawn shops, banks, taverns, inns, and so on. There was everything that one could think of. The only hard currency here was the immortal crystal coins that the ruling class of the great world of CND had unified and refined. There are 2 updates today. Chapter 1161. Immortal crystal coins contained a limited amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi, and could not be refined and absorbed by cultivators. To be exact, immortal crystal coins were of no use to cultivators. However, the ruling class of the great world of CND had turned it into the only currency in the great world of CND. Just like the paper money on Earth, it had no value in itself, but it was a recognized currency. Shall we go directly to the Green Immortal Academy? Si Xian frowned slightly and transmitted her voice. Obviously, the glances and discussions of the cultivators around her made her unable to remain calm. To her, the word old was too harsh to the ears. But that was the truth, so what could she do? Moreover, whether it was the low-level Daluo Jingxian, the supreme Hongmeng, or the high-level cutting Dao true immortals, there were a lot of people with powerful auras. This was not something the ancient chaos boundless world could compare to. Fortunately, Si Xian was already mentally prepared, so she could still endure it. What are we going there for? Chen Hao turned to look at Si Xian and asked in surprise. Of course it's to enter an academy, a second-rate academy. That captain is really a good person. It doesn't matter to you, but if I can enter a second-rate academy, it will be very difficult. Si Xian said very seriously, but she saw Chen Hao staring at her strangely. She suddenly thought of something and said, "Forget it, give me the token, and I won't affect you. You can enter a first-rate academy." How old are you this year? Chen Hao asked. Si Xian blushed and said, "You already know the answer, so what if I'm old? I feel that you're still underage, can we not be so naive?" What do you mean? Do you really think that old guy is a good person? Even if you were sold, you would still count the money for him. Chen Hao said speechlessly. It can't be, he gave us the token and recommended us. Could it be fake? At most, we can't enter, so we can't be sold. Si Xian said. Remember, don't let your guard down at any time. You didn't see the old guy's eyes at that time, right? You didn't notice the way the 2 of them acted, right? You also didn't notice the expressions of the guards around you, right? Chen Hao said. No, don't think too badly of yourself. You have cultivated the 9 lives profound technique. Although you have lived for tens of millions of years, your face has not aged at all. Moreover, you're only in the Hongmeng realm. You haven't cut the path, so you haven't settled down yet. Also, you have a primordialine body, and your looks are just so-so. These are all your bargaining chips. Just based on these conditions, you may be able to obtain the qualifications to enter a second-rate academy. Naturally, I have no problem with that. Si Xian frowned slightly. It was obvious that Chen Hao's words made her a little depressed. She retorted, "Isn't that still a second-rate academy? We are both Daluo Jingxian. You can casually pick a Daluo Jingxian in ancient chaos. Can he be compared to me?" Chen Hao said through voice transmission. At the same time, he looked at a female Dao severing true immortal cultivator not far away. He pulled Si Xian closer to her. "Hello pretty sister, can I ask you a question?" Chen Hao's chubby face once again turned into a blooming chrysanthemum. However, his eyes were clear and his expression simple and honest. He cupped his fist and asked the female cultivator. "Ha, little fatty, you're new here." Sister's eyes are as sharp as torches. "We just arrived here. Do you know Green Nether Academy?" Green Nether Academy? The female cultivator was slightly taken aback. She immediately understood. "Did the guards at the city gate recommend you? They even gave you a token?" "I don't need you to say it, I can guess. Little fatty, you're so young and your aura is not bad. If you can pass the examination and enter the city, you'll definitely have no problem entering a second-rate academy. As for your female companion, I advise you to go through the proper channels. Otherwise, it'll be too late for regrets. Green Nether Academy is only at the bottom of the second-rate academy. You can consider my academy, Jinxing Academy. It's above average among the second-rate academies. Of course, if you're not in a hurry, it's best if you can cultivate for a while before considering joining the academy. It'll be good for you. Thank you, sister. You're welcome. Little fatty, your mouth is quite sweet. Si Xian was a little speechless as she followed Chen Hao to bid farewell to pretty sister. Did you hear that? What she said is true. The appearance is born from the heart. Brother. I've always been very good at judging people. Moreover, I'm so honest and cute. Why would she need to lie to me? Chen Hao said proudly. It has to be said that after becoming like this, although he lost his handsomeness, it was easier for him to gain the goodwill of others. Harmless to humans and animals, forget it. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Let's see what happens. Si Xian stared at Chen Hao for a moment before saying, let's find a pawn shop first. Chen Hao replied. In the ancient chaos-boundless world, once one's cultivation reached a certain level, one would not need to eat. One could condense a palace anywhere or live in the wilderness. It didn't matter whether one had money or not. But in the great world of CND, this was not the case. Other than the cultivators who had just entered the city, who had 1 year of free time, all the cultivators had to pay a certain amount of immortal crystal coins according to the number of days they stayed in the city. Moreover, no one could casually condense a palace on the streets of the city for living and cultivation. To survive here, one had to buy one's own palace or choose to live in an inn. There were many ways to obtain immortal crystal coins. One was to work as a coolie and go to the great world of CND Alliance's mission center to accept missions and obtain rewards. Another was to participate in the academy's assessment. As long as one could become a student of the academy, one would be able to obtain a basic living guarantee. Third was to obtain rewards through fighting in the Alliance's challenge center. Fourth was to enter various chambers of commerce and forces and obtain wages by working for them. Fifth was to sell oneself. Both men and women could sell themselves. As long as one had the qualifications to sell themselves. This was equivalent to the young miss and young master on Earth. In the great world of CND, it was a legal existence. Moreover, it was a very popular industry. The difference was that this was an industry that cultivators engaged in. It was simply impossible to sell one's body. Therefore, appearance was not the most important. Cultivation, comprehension, and talent were the most important assets. However, legal was legal. But those who engaged in this industry were still despised by most people. Just like on Earth, they were basically doing it secretly under disguises, and there were people from low level to high level. Those who did it for money were in the minority, and those who did it for cultivation were the majority. While selling oneself, they were also cultivating. It was the same nature as the Happy Valley back then. It had just become a public industry. Hello, miss. Just as Chen Hao and Si Xian were about to step into a pawn shop, a young-looking peak late-stage Grand Miss Supremacy Realm expert suddenly blocked their way. He directly ignored Chen Hao and greeted Si Xian with cupped fists. His eyes were shining, or rather, they were shining with lust. Chapter 1162. Si Xian immediately stopped and frowned slightly. Chen Hao also stopped with Si Xian, but he took half a step forward and slightly surpassed Si Xian. He said, I'm her cultivation partner. What do you want? At this moment, the cultivator glanced at Chen Hao's face and smiled slightly. He still looked at Si Xian. His lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. Si Xian's expression changed. It was obvious that the cultivator was talking to her. However, after a moment, Si Xian directly said with a cold face, not interested. Fatty, let's go. After Si Xian finished speaking, she pulled Chen Hao around and continued to walk toward the entrance of the pawnshop. Miss, are you really not going to consider it? Your life aura is very old. This is the best way for you to improve quickly. The cultivator's figure flashed, and he once again blocked the two of them and said directly. Si Xian's special situation had already attracted the attention of many people. At this time, many cultivators who were passing by stopped and chose to watch. Such a scene was a common occurrence in true martial city, or any of the border cities of the immortal emperor's great thousand worlds. Moreover, it mainly happened to beauties with primordial body, and their talent was basically average. Not interested. Please move aside. Si Xian said coldly. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. The great world of CND is not as simple as you think. Once you've thought about it, you can come and find me at any time. The cultivator said with a smile, his lustful eyes still sweeping over Si Xian's body. Do you think Sima Duoli will succeed this time? It's difficult today, but it's hard to say later. This pair of cultivation partners seems to have just arrived at the great world of CND. They don't know the cruelty of the great world of CND yet. After they stay for a while, the possibility of yielding is high. This beauty's life aura is so old. In the face of benefits, how will she choose? How many people can resist the temptation? That's true. Beauty is also a kind of innate capital. Although this beauty's life aura is old, her face does not show any signs of aging. She looks like a mature girl. What's more rare is that she still has her primordial body. Maybe he can become the plaything of a big shot above the sixth heaven of cutting path. In the future, his improvement will be fast. Sima Duoli, the cultivator who stopped Chen Hao and Si Xian, was one of the people who specialized in this kind of headhunting job in the true martial city. He had judged Si Xian's value at first glance. If it wasn't for the fact that his life aura was very old, he would definitely be able to sell it to true martial city's top figures who had this hobby. However, even so, Si Xian's beautiful youthful appearance and primordial body could be sold for a high price. After all, there were many rich people who didn't care about talent at all. They only cared about looks and figures. This little fatty is really good at enduring. His Dao companion is about to be snatched away, but he doesn't even say a word. He's even smiling foolishly. Are you done? If you're done, can you step aside? Chen Hao said in a lukewarm tone. Miss, although this little fatty's talent is good for his age, but at best, he is only from a second-rate academy. Moreover, he is only Daoyuo Jingxian. Even if he is of help to you in the future, can you afford to wait? Think about it carefully. Put down your reservations, and a bright future will appear in front of you. Moreover, this little fatty is simply a good-for-nothing. Why do you have to be reluctant to part with him? Please be more respectful when you speak. He is my Dao companion. Si Xian said angrily. As she spoke, the hand that was holding Chen Hao's hand tightened. Obviously, she was afraid that Chen Hao would flip out. Others didn't know, but she was still clear. If Chen Hao was speaking, she would feel more at ease. However, after he spoke a sentence, he fell silent, squinted his eyes, and smiled foolishly. This made Si Xian feel afraid. She had just entered the great world of CND. She didn't want to cause trouble. Although no one dared to kill in public in the great world of CND, what about in secret? No matter how strict the rules were, they were not the rules of the heavenly Tao. They couldn't be completely monitored. Enduring was a must. However, are you done talking? Chen Hao also held Si Xian's hand tightly. He took a step forward and pulled Si Xian directly to the cultivator. His chubby face still had a silly smile as he asked. Let's go this way. Si Xian pulled Chen Hao and was about to go around again. However, Chen Hao's feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. His chubby body didn't even move. Oh. Little fatty, I said that you are a good-for-nothing. Do you want to show off? I'm done talking. Welcome to the challenge. Sima Duo Li's lips curled up slightly as he said mockingly. Do you think I'm stupid? If you're done talking, then scram. A good dog doesn't block the way. What did you say? Are you deaf? Fine, I'm too lazy to talk to you. Tell me your name, identity, and category. When I become the Supreme of Hongmeng, you'll be the first one I'll kill. Ha! Why wait? I can seal myself to the Zenith Heaven realm to fight with you. What do you think? Sima Duo Li's eyes flashed with an undetectable murderous intent as he said provocatively. I see. Chen Hao seemed a little surprised. He rubbed his nose and said, It's not a battle of life and death, right? It's up to you. Sima Duo Li didn't dare to be too harsh. Otherwise, if little fatty didn't agree to his challenge, he would lose everything. If it wasn't a battle of life and death, he could defeat little fatty and help Si Xian join him. Why not do it? I hate killing people the most, no matter if they are rich or poor. Although you are a little cheap. So, let's not have a battle of life and death. Let's determine the winner and loser. However, I'm not interested in a battle without a prize. Fuck, Chen Hao's words made Sima Duoli want to strangle him to death. However, before the challenge contract was signed, he could only endure it for now. He said, So, you want to make a bet? Little fatty, are you stupid? This Sima Duoli is very strong. Even if he is in the sealed realm, his combat skills, soul power, and mental state are all at the level of the Supreme of Hongmeng. How can you defeat him? At this moment, a voice sounded in Chen Hao's ears. Pretty sister. Don't worry, I'm still very strong. This shameless woman tried to seduce my Dao partner. I can tolerate it, but I can't. Chen Hao looked at the crowd in surprise and immediately saw the female Dao severing true immortal who had spoken earlier. Your temperament is not good. The great world of CND is very cruel and dangerous. The legal restrictions are only on the surface. You just came here, so you should be more patient. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to move an inch in the future. The female cultivator was standing hand in hand with a true immortal who was stronger than her. Yes, thank you for your reminder. Chen Hao replied. Then, he said to Sima Duoli, Of course. 10,000 immortal crystal coins. Do you dare? Ha! 10,000 immortal crystal coins. Do you still dare? 100,000 immortal crystal coins. If you lose, leave this lady. You don't have to give me any immortal crystal coins. Sima Duoli said disdainfully. Although he was a primordial chaos sovereign, he was very skilled in the headhunting business. He could definitely be considered a rich man. However, after seeing Si Xian today, he was afraid that she would be snatched away by others. That was why he acted so aggressively and urgently. Every profession had its own rules. Now that he was the first to find out and take action, no one else could interfere. However, if he did not settle the matter now, other hunters would intervene. At that time, it would be a competition and the chances of getting Si Xian would be very small. That was the reason why he acted so boldly today. Of course, it was also because of Chen Hao's cultivation level and appearance that made him think that Si Xian did not have any feelings for this little fatty bullshit. Gambling is gambling. What does it have to do with my Dao partner? 100,000 immortal crystal coins it is. I'm not afraid of anyone in the same cultivation level as me. Buzz. Chen Hao took out the identity token that was given to him at the city gate. His mind entered the token and it shone brightly. Buzz. Sima Duoli was so angry at Chen Hao that he almost vomited blood. However, he did not hesitate and took out his own token. Daoyuo Jingxian, Li Yuan, Supreme of Hongmeng, Sima Duoli. This little fatty is called Li Yuan. Two bright rays of light formed their respective cultivation level and names in the void. This was the process that one had to go through to sign the Great World of CND's challenge contract. Although it was Chen Hao's first time using it, with Yilan's experience, he was very clear about the basic rules of the great world of CND. Si Xian knew that she could not stop Chen Hao. However, Si Xian was relieved that he had sealed his cultivation level. Others might not know Chen Hao well, but how could she not know? In the same cultivation level, even in the great world of CND, only a small group of top figures could defeat Chen Hao. Chen Hao, who had transformed into a little fatty, had restrained himself a lot after his experience with the Thunder Dragon King. He did not even dare to release his bloodline aura. If not, Sima Duoli would not be so arrogant as to fight Chen Hao with his sealed cultivation level. Buzz. 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 The aura of the token was released. In just a few breaths, several fourth heaven true immortals in bright armor and uniforms stepped out of the space-time gate that suddenly appeared in the void. They were the enforcers of the real martial city. Li Yuan, you want to challenge Sima Duoli? The old man in the lead looked down at Chen Hao and Sima Duoli, who had taken out their tokens, and asked expressionlessly. Yes. His sealed cultivation level is Daoyuo Jingxian. The bet is 100,000 immortal crystal coins. That's right. Enforcers, please seal him. This is 100,000 immortal crystal coins. Buzz. As Sima Duoli spoke, he took out a storage ring with immortal crystal coins on it. I have 10 divine artifacts here. They should be worth 100,000 immortal crystal coins. Buzz. Chen Hao had already prepared. He took out 10 divine artifacts that he had originally planned to exchange for immortal crystal coins when he came to the great world of CND. Ancient divine artifacts are worth 100,000 immortal crystals. The enforcer glanced at them and said indifferently. He waved his hand and put away the 2 bets. At the same time, the other 5 enforcers pointed their fingers at Sima Duoli. Buzz. Sima Duoli was immediately surrounded by endless runes and immortal light. Immediately, his cultivation level and aura were sealed in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Rise. Buzz. The enforcer leader's glabella flashed, and a huge arena suddenly rose into the air and floated directly in the void. Chen Hao and Si Xian were shocked. They also had a clearer understanding of the complete law system and powerful foundation of the great world of CND. Chapter 1163. A mobile arena. It was a specially condensed magic treasure. The powerful aura of the spacetime technique and the mystery of the runes were beyond the knowledge of Chen Hao and Si Xian. Obviously, it was a genuine immortal magic treasure. This was only the real martial city. How many cities like this were there in the great world of CND? Moreover, the huge real martial city had more than one enforcement team. In other words, there was more than one mobile arena in the real martial city. Ancient chaos, which had just been unified, could not be compared to this, enforcer. We are just fighting in the golden celestial stage. Is there a need for such a high-level arena? Just as Chen Hao was about to enter the arena, Sima Duoli said with a pained expression. The low-level arenas are in use. Only this one is available. 5,000 fairy crystal coins per minute. The minimum time limit is 1 minute. The maximum deduction is the wager of both of you. There is no need to pay extra. The time starts now. The enforcer's face darkened and he looked at Sima Duoli. He was obviously impatient and said coldly. Are you serious? When Chen Hao heard the enforcer's words, the fat on his face trembled. Fuck, isn't this robbery? 5,000 fairy crystal coins per minute. If they fought for 2 minutes, it would be 10,000 fairy crystal coins. If they fought for 20 minutes, even if they won, the 100,000 fairy crystal coins would be gone. Chi. Without saying a word, Sima Duoli flew toward the arena with a gloomy face. Looking at the situation, it was obvious that they could not go back on their words and challenge the arena. Chen Hao also flew toward the arena with a pained expression. If he had known this, Chen Hao would not have taken the initiative to use the token. The enforcement team was too deceitful. Of course, it was also their fault that they did not ask at the beginning and signed the contract directly. Otherwise, they could still go back on their words before the enforcement team took action. And now, both of them had already made their moves. Furthermore, they had even brought out their battle rings. Evidently, there was no turning back. Little fatty, lie down. Chi. The moment the two of them entered the arena, Sima Duoli violently shot out sword radiance from his hand. Originally, he had wanted to trample on Chen Hao and display his super powerful battle skills and Abijna law to let Si Xian know the true strength of the cultivators of the great world of Xiandi. But now, he could only choose to end the battle quickly. 1 minute was 5,000 immortal crystal coins. Even if he was rich, it was relative. 100,000 immortal crystal coins was a large sum. How could he waste it? Therefore, this guy directly raised his power to the peak. The dazzling and majestic sword light carried a terrifying might and boundless Tao laws as it enveloped Chen Hao. This little fatty is too impulsive. The female cultivator who tried to persuade Chen Hao frowned and shook her head when she saw Sima Duoli's sword light. Not necessarily. What surprised the female cultivator was that her Dao companion beside her smiled and stared at Chen Hao Dao, who was in the arena. The female cultivator's Taoist companion was a 4th stage Dao severing perfected immortal. She was also one of the 4th stage Dao severing experts in Jin Xing Academy. This little fatty's life aura is extremely young. Moreover, he must have concealed his aura and pretended to be weak. Concealed his aura and pretended to be weak? You can tell. I can't tell from him. But take a closer look at his Taoist companion. She has lived for tens of millions of years, but her appearance has not aged at all. Moreover, her life aura still contains a trace of vitality. She must have possessed the ability to Dao severing long ago, but she has not done so. She is still in Hongmeng and has retained her primordial Yin body. If not for her confidence in her lifespan, who would spend tens of millions of years to come to the great world of Xiandi? She either has swallowed a precious spiritual item of heaven and earth, or she has cultivated a kind of ultimate technique. If you carefully sense her aura, she must be very strong in Hongmeng. In a second-rate academy, she is definitely a first-rate expert in the same realm. If she fought with Sima Duoli, she might not lose. But she did not stop him. When you look at her eyes again, is there any worry? No, there is only a trace of excitement. You are so powerful, you look so carefully, don't tell me, don't talk nonsense. I only have you in my heart. I only paid more attention because you care about this little fatty. Looking at a man's strength through his Taoist companion is also a method. Just like you, when others see you, they will know that I am not weak. No matter how I hide, don't you think so? Are you praising yourself or praising me? This little fatty is so fast. Great teleportation technique. The exchange of thoughts between the two of them only lasted for a split second. At their realm, as spectators who were not affected by the pressure of the Tao marks, the speed of their mental state was undoubtedly countless times faster than the movements of the people fighting. Great teleportation technique? That's right. He is indeed not simple. It can't be. This fatty's speed is actually so fast. The female cultivator and her Taoist companion were not the only ones who were surprised. Chen Hao's fat body suddenly teleported in a flash, causing all the spectating cultivators to reveal shocked expressions. Eat this fat master's fist. Boom. Chen Hao, who had already transformed into a fatty, swung his fat buttocks at a high frequency, creating numerous afterimages. After suddenly dodging the terrifying sword light, he directly appeared above his opponent's head. His entire body was blown up like a balloon, turning into a round shape. At the same time, he sent out a punch. Chi! The fist that was like a towering mountain, carrying a desolate aura that could destroy everything in the world, came crashing down. Courting death. Chi! Sima Duoli, who was also shocked by Chen Hao's terrifying speed, roared angrily and waved his sword to meet the attack. The majestic power that was filled with a desolate aura forced him to be on guard and use all his strength to deal with it. In just 2 moves, he already knew that he had underestimated this fatty. Whether it was his state of mind, will, or comprehension of the heavenly Tao, this fatty was not inferior to him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to dodge his full-force attack so easily and directly attack above his head. This made him very angry and pained. He concluded that it was not something that could be done in 1 or 2 minutes to defeat this fatty. He was afraid that his bet with this fatty would be given to the law enforcement officer. Rumble. The terrifying sword light and Chen Hao's mountain-like fist collided. The seemingly terrifying fist light was directly annihilated by the sword light, as if it could not withstand a single blow. Ah! Fuck! However, at this moment, Sima Duoli suddenly burst into a roar of horror and anger. Chi 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 chi, boom boom boom, then, the terrifying explosion of energy resounded throughout the world. All the spectating cultivators, including Si Xian, widened their eyes and were dumbfounded. Fuck, this works too. That's too cruel. It can't be. Is this a fucking battle with Daluo Jingxian? This fatty really doesn't want to live, he's ruthless. He's so shameless. Chapter 1164. Once the divine ability was unleashed, it would connect with the mind and soul. Only when the divine ability was fully unleashed would the mind and soul withdraw. This was the most basic principle. Before the divine ability was fully unleashed, forcefully withdrawing would cause the mind and soul to suffer a backlash that was even greater than if the divine ability was destroyed by an expert. The damage to one's body would be huge. Because of this, under normal circumstances, no one would, or rather, no one would dare to, forcefully withdraw before the divine ability was fully unleashed. That was purely because one was making life difficult for themselves. However, what the crowd did not expect was that after this little fatty unleashed a punch with all his might, he actually forcefully withdrew. What was even more ridiculous was that the moment he forcefully withdrew, he did not care about the backlash and used the great teleportation technique again. His fat body flashed and rushed behind Sima Duoli. If that was all, it would be fine. However, what was even crazier was that the little fatty was like a human cannonball. He opened his arms and with a speed as fast as a ghost, he directly hugged Sima Duoli, who had no time to withdraw from the attack, from the waist. At the same time, he also locked Sima Duoli's arms. Such a crazy, sinister, thrilling, dangerous, and shameless way of fighting was definitely unheard of. However, the little fatty had succeeded in locking. As Sima Duoli roared in horror and crazily urged his energy to burst out from his body, Chen Hao was blasted to the point that his fat skin was overturned and his flesh was torn apart. However, his fat body made cracking sounds as his bones and tendons trembled. His hands and body were like steel bars and iron hoops that squeezed Sima Duoli's body until it was completely distorted. His brute force was endless, accompanied by an endless aura of desolation that devoured life. Under the shocked gaze of the crowd, Sima Duoli's roar turned into a scream of fear. The fatty's injuries were getting worse and worse, but he did not let go. Sima Duoli struggled more and more crazily, but his life force and strength were rapidly weakening. The color of his face instantly turned gray. Pang! Finally, the two of them fell from the void of the arena and landed on the hard, rune-filled ground of the arena. Damn it, still not admitting defeat? Boom! The fat man was covered in blood. The moment he landed on the ground, he flipped over and sat on top of Sima Duoli. His fat body and fat but almost flattened Sima Duoli, who was lying on the ground. What made everyone speechless, what made Si Xian want to cover her face and pretend not to know Chen Hao was, not only was this fellow riding Sima Duoli, he was also quickly getting up and down, sitting down, getting up again, and sitting down again. Under the desolate aura and mysterious runes that surrounded him, Chen Hao was like a rammed foundation. Every time he landed, Sima Duoli, whose life force was getting weaker and weaker, let out an sound, followed by a mouthful of essence blood. The man's eyes widened, and the woman felt nauseous and blushed. This was too fucking similar to some kind of camera. Ah, you dare to have designs on Lord Fatty's woman? Ah, Grandpa Fatty will sit you to death. Ah, motherfucker, I wanted to keep a low profile, but you forced me to reveal my identity. Ah, and Lord Fatty's trump card. Ah, motherfucker, still not admitting defeat? Ah, you're courting death. Ah, seems like you are not satisfied enough. Ah, everyone's expression twitched. Motherfucker, this little fatty is too shameless. How is this not admitting defeat? It is obvious that you did not give him a chance to speak. The moment he opened his mouth, he was smashed by your butt, and the words that came out of his mouth were, ah. But at this moment, the fat man suddenly made a move that made everyone break out in cold sweat. This fellow actually took out a thick, big, and long red spear, Overlord spear. Chi. Ah, this time, when everyone saw the fat man holding the spear with both hands and stabbing downwards, all the men present shuddered. Their legs tightened and their buttocks turned cold. Enough. Chi. The law enforcement officer who had waited long enough finally made his move. In fact, the winner and loser had already been decided, but they could not wait for the other party to delay for a while so that they could deduct more commission. Being able to deduct all the money from the bet was undoubtedly the most satisfactory result. But now, seeing the wretched, shameless, obscene, and crazy actions of the little fatty, it would be unreasonable if they did not stop the competition. After all, this was not a life and death duel. If something happened, they would have to take responsibility. The law enforcement officer waved his hand and released a terrifying immortal light, directly separating the two. Li Yuansheng. The battle time is 8 minutes and 39 seconds, calculated as 9 minutes. This is the bet of 55,000 immortal crystal coins and your ancient sacred weapon. Chi. The law enforcement officer directly announced the result of the battle and sent the bet to Chen Hao. Little fatty, you are a cultivator from the vast thousand worlds, right? To Chen Hao's surprise, when he received the bet, the voice of the leader of the law enforcement officers rang in his mind. Senior, how did you know? Chen Hao was covered in blood and his flesh was lacerated, but his essence, qi, and spirit seemed to have been seriously exhausted. However, his expression remained unchanged and he transmitted his voice. How could Old Man not know the aura of the Heavenly Wasteland Sutra? Old Man was also born in the vast thousand worlds. Remember, in the future, you have to endure everything. With your fighting style, if you meet an expert, you are simply courting death. You are definitely a rare genius to be able to comprehend the Heavenly Wasteland Sutra to this extent. Work hard and improve your real combat strength is the most important thing. Cough cough. Thank you for your teachings, Senior. Chen Hao wiped the blood and sweat on his face and transmitted his voice. Chi Chi. The law enforcement officer directly attacked, and Chen Hao and Sima Duoli were immediately sent out of the arena. Immediately, the arena flashed and disappeared between the eyebrows of the leader of the law enforcement officers. The group instantly stepped into the space-time gate and disappeared into the void. Cici, quick, help me, in the void, Chen Hao shouted. Si Xian looked at Chen Hao's lacerated flesh and dispirited appearance. Although she knew that this guy was pretending, she had to cooperate with him. She looked very touched, heartbroken, and worried. She directly soared into the air and hugged Chen Hao's arm tightly. Her acting skills were definitely top-notch. Of course, to be able to act so well, her attitude was naturally very correct. At least, it was not all a pretense. Are your injuries serious? I'm fine. For you, this injury is nothing. Chen Hao's obviously painful and dispirited fat face squeezed out a smile like a blooming chrysanthemum. Damn. This little fatty is really not simple. Many people in the crowd exclaimed in their hearts. Little fatty. Chi chi. At this moment, the female cultivator and her cultivation partner's figure flashed and appeared in front of Chen Hao and Si Xian. Chapter 1165. Nice to meet you, pretty sister. Is this your Dao partner? He's righteous, clean, handsome, and has a powerful aura. You're so lucky, sister. Chen Hao looked at the female cultivator's Dao partner, and his mouth was filled with honey. However, his originally chubby face was now pale and dispirited with blood stains, making him look extremely comical. You flatter me, little brother. The female cultivator's Dao partner cupped her fists and said to Chen Hao. She smiled because of Chen Hao's compliment. Little fatty, I'm Fan Ling, and my Dao partner is Zhou Yuchen. Are you seriously injured? Fan Ling asked with concern. She was secretly delighted because of little fatty's compliment to her Dao partner. No matter how hard one tried, flattery would never work. Regardless of whether Chen Hao's compliment was genuine or not, Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen were very pleased. So you're called Fan Ling, don't worry, Sister Ling. I'm tough, and this injury is nothing. Sister Ling, Brother Chen, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Li Yuan. You can call me Little Fatty. My Dao partner is Chen Hao. Chen Hao said. While Chen Hao was talking, Si Xian, who was supporting Chen Hao, surged with Dao Law energy. She was obviously helping Chen Hao heal his injuries. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Si Xian nodded slightly at the two of them but did not say anything. Si Xian's aura was too old, but she was only a supremacy of Hongmeng. Chen Hao kept calling her sister and brother. How should she address Si Xian, who was his Dao partner? She could not say that. Countless spectators were attracted by the arena battle. Regardless of their cultivation base, they were all watching and discussing the little fatty who had shocked them. As for Sima Duoli, who was almost penetrated by the overlord's spear, after panting for a moment, he did not say a word. He dragged his lifeless body and left dejectedly. He had failed miserably. No matter what, he had to get back at them. A dog that bites does not bark. He wasn't stupid enough to say a few words before he left. That would be meaningless. Chen Si, just like your name. I'll call you Cici. Fan Ling, on the other hand, smiled slightly. Looking at Si Xian's delicate face that didn't show any signs of aging, she said, Little fatty, it's too dangerous for you to fight like this. Don't force yourself. Cici, take him to our residence to heal first. This. Si Xian looked at Chen Hao. No need, no need. Sister Ling, we can just find an inn. We just earned some money, haha. There's no need to trouble you. I think Big Brother Chen should also have just returned from his training, right? I can't disturb you. Thank you for your kindness. Chen Hao said. All right then. We are in Jinxing Academy. You should be able to pass the assessment. If you are interested, let me know. Yu Chen may be able to help you a little. Fan Zhen said. Sister Ling, Brother Chen, then we'll be going. See you again. Yes. Little brother, be careful of Sima Duoli. He is a member of the Headhunter Guild. He has a strong background and has connections with many important people. If you provoke him, there will be trouble in the future. If there is a challenger, it's best not to agree before you understand the situation of the other party. It's best not to do solo missions or leave the city before you enter the academy. The dangers of the great world of CND are definitely not as simple as you think. When Chen Hao was supported by Si Xian and quickly left, Zhou Yuchen's voice appeared in Chen Hao's mind. Thank you Brother Chen for the reminder. After Si Xian stepped out of the crowd with Chen Hao, she flew away quickly and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Very quickly, the gathered cultivators dispersed without causing any commotion. If such a battle was in ancient chaos, it might cause a commotion. But in the great thousand world of the immortal emperors, it couldn't be any more normal. In the eyes of many people, Chen Hao's strength was just so-so. The only thing that stood out was the great teleportation technique and the heavenly wasteland scripture. To be able to defeat Sima Duoli, it wasn't a true suppression of strength, but a desperate, wretched, shameless, crazy battle tactic. However, there were a few people like Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen who saw that little fatty Chen Hao and Si Xian were not as simple as they seemed. But they just saw it and didn't care. In the great thousand immortal emperor's world, there were too many people hiding their strength. There were also too many people pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. In such a competitive world where geniuses gathered, no one would reveal all their trump cards. Or rather, no one dared to. Unless they had a strong background and their strength had reached the peak of the same realm. When the top geniuses from different greater worlds entered the great world of CND, no matter if they were dragons or tigers, they had to lie down. Forbearance was a lesson that every cultivator had to learn. You don't have to pretend anymore. In the room of the inn, Qin Hao was supported by Si Xian. After closing the door and opening the seal, Si Xian let go of Qin Hao and said. Her face was slightly red. Although she had already expected that they would encounter such a scene when they pretended to be Taoist companions, she still felt strange when they entered a room together. A man and a woman alone, traveling together was a very dangerous thing. It was even more dangerous to enter a room together. It was impossible to say that he didn't feel anything. I feel okay. Qin Hao looked at Si Xian, smiled, shook his arm and said. Being supported by Si Xian was undoubtedly a very intimate contact. How could Qin Hao not feel anything? Of course, if they were in the great world of ancient chaos, he definitely wouldn't say anything. But now, they were alone in the great world of CND, a man and a woman traveling together, and their relationship was developing in a certain direction. Qin Hao didn't have too many misgivings, and directly said such teasing words. At the same time, Qin Hao's body flashed with a crystal light, the blood and wounds on his face and body disappeared, and he returned to his fair and chubby appearance. Obviously, the wounds that Sima Duoli left on Qin Hao contained profound Dao marks, and were of no threat to Qin Hao. What? Qin Hao's answer made Si Xian frown slightly. Hee, pa. Qin Hao glanced at Si Xian's full breasts, and at the same time, shamelessly patted Si Xian's left arm. If Si Xian still didn't understand, she should really bang her head against the wall, but it was precisely because she understood that Si Xian's face flushed red. Si Xian, I didn't expect your acting to be so good, your emotions are on point. If we were on Earth, this year's best actress would definitely be you. Qin Hao continued. Go to hell. Si Xian was furious. As an immortal legend, who dared to tease her? But now, she was obviously being teased by this damn fatty. Why did she feel flustered? Chapter 1166. You're quite cute when you act coquettishly, fatty. What nonsense are you talking about? Who's acting coquettishly? Si Xian, who was already a little flustered, blushed even more when she heard Qin Hao's words. Let's get down to business. What do you plan to do next? Qin Hao saw that Si Xian's face was about to bleed and stopped teasing her. He sat cross-legged on the cushion in the living room and said. Aren't we going to find your parents and Han Mei first? What other plans can I have? Si Xian was eager to change the topic. The atmosphere just now made her flustered and uncomfortable. However, I'm afraid we won't be able to find them in a short time. The great world of CND is vast and boundless. Although we all came out from around the same point in the Milky Way tunnel, we've been flying in the chaotic space for more than a month. With your speed, I'm afraid you'll have to fly in the great world of CND for several decades. You won't have a clue at all. That's true. I didn't expect it to take so long in the chaotic space. I can't sense the auras of my 5 clones. They should have gone to other cities or even other planets. Moreover, my parents and Master Han Mei must have changed their names and hidden themselves like us. This is undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Let's put this matter aside for the time being. Qin Hao said with a slight frown. Rumors were, after all, just rumors. After stepping into the great world of CND, Qin Hao and Si Xian felt like frogs in a well looking at the sky in a short time. Everything here was much more powerful than what Yilan had described. Although the essence of things hadn't changed much, what they saw and heard after stepping into the true martial city was obviously greatly different from the great world of CND in Yilan's memory. This was also expected. After all, Yilan had left the great world of CND for nearly hundreds of millions of years. After such a long time, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the great world of CND had changed. Then what do you plan to do? Are you going to advance in the Grand Mist domain first? Si Xian sat cross-legged across from Qin Hao and asked. Qin Hao pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, let's not go to the Hongmeng region for now. The heavenly Tao and spiritual qi of heaven and earth here are stronger than we imagined. I feel that there is still a lot of room for improvement. It is not the right time to enter the Hongmeng domain. It would be best for you to enter the academy first and familiarize yourself with everything here. Only then will you be able to make your next move, Qin Hao said. Oh. It shouldn't be a problem for you to enter a first-class academy. I'll make my choice after you decide where you want to go. Don't worry, I won't drag you down, as long as we are in the same city. Si Xian said. Just as she entered True Martial City, something like this had happened. This made Si Xian realize that a single beauty like her who maintained her primordial yin body was like a sheep that had stepped into a pack of wolves. Even if she entered the academy, she probably wouldn't be able to remain calm. After Qin Hao entered a first-class academy, it would be much better for her to have a Dao partner like Qin Hao to act as a shield. At the very least, many people wouldn't dare to have any ideas about her. This was also what Hunting Head Sima Duo had told her through voice transmission. It made her completely understand, with a primordial yin body, her looks and figure were top-notch, and she hadn't severed her Dao yet. She had a lot of potential. According to Sima Duo Li, he could recommend Si Xian to many important people and make her their woman. To put it bluntly, she would be a plaything in the dark. However, the cultivation of these important people could allow Si Xian to improve at an astonishing rate. This was definitely a great temptation for women who didn't have moral integrity and chastity. Although they couldn't see the light of day, it was definitely the best way to reach the heavens in a single bound. However, Si Xian wasn't that kind of person, and she didn't need that kind of shortcut. Naturally, she wouldn't agree. Since I'm already here, how can I drag you down? Let's understand the situation first. This place is very different from what Senior Yilan said. I don't necessarily have to enter a first-class academy. You mean, you want to enter the same academy as me? Si Xian's eyes lit up when she heard Qin Hao's words. Did I say that? Qin Hao frowned and asked. Si Xian was slightly stunned. She immediately curled her lips and said, Damn fatty, I knew you wouldn't be so kind, it's over. Qin Hao stared at Si Xian and said something inexplicable. What? Si Xian knew that it was definitely not something good, but she couldn't help but ask. You seem to have fallen in love with this fat body of mine, what nonsense are you talking about? Who likes a fat person like you? You're thinking too much. Si Xian said angrily. However, as she spoke, she smiled slightly. But what? Qin Hao narrowed his eyes, and his chubby face once again bloomed into a brilliant smile. My appearance is indeed cuter and more amiable, right? Si Xian was slightly stunned, and then she said, it's more wretched, more shameless, more insidious, more despicable. But I feel that this seems to be your true nature. Are you serious? This time, Qin Hao was slightly stunned, and his heart thumped as he realized something. Nature. Could it be that this is my true nature? The facts were indeed as Si Xian said. After disguising himself as a fatty and entering a new world, besides Si Xian, he who didn't have any relatives or friends by his side seemed to be like a fish in water when he appeared with his current character. It was as if he was born with this character, and it made him feel extremely comfortable from top to bottom, from inside to outside. The god of slaughter Qin Hao was cold to his enemies, loyal to his brothers, and attentive to women. Although it was his true nature, no matter how he showed it, there was always a kind of estrangement in his heart. It was only when he was alone with one of the women, and it was only occasionally, that he occasionally felt the way he did now. That was undoubtedly when he was most moved and most natural. However, it was a pity that everything that he had experienced in the ancient chaos great thousand world and the intense pace of his cultivation had been pushing him to constantly improve. Such moments were simply too rare. Perhaps it was for this reason that after stepping out of the Star River tunnel and disguising himself as a fatty, the estrangement between Chen Hao and Si Xian suddenly faded a lot. That was why he pretended to be her Taoist companion and flirted with her just now. Of course it's true. And, more shameless. He dared to flirt with me. It's your father. Si Xian said, and as if her words had slipped, she mentioned Chen Hao's father again. Fuck. Chen Hao suddenly jumped up, the fat on his face trembling. He rolled up his arms and sleeves, and looked like he was going to teach Si Xian a lesson. He threatened, try saying that again. Pfft. Si Xian sat calmly, and then burst out laughing, what are you so excited about? Am I not telling the truth? You don't want to admit that you are younger than me. Could it be that you have been interested in me since long ago? Chapter 1167. The fat on Chen Hao's face trembled. His chubby hand was raised in the air, but the cross-legged Si Xian was looking up at him, motionless. After several seconds, Chen Hao finally lowered his hand. He had discovered that Si Xian, or perhaps a woman's ability to adapt, was extremely powerful. Once their psychological defenses were broken through, they would quickly adapt. Just like now, Si Xian, who had just been teased by him and was blushing so red that it seemed as if blood would drip from her face, was now able to calmly checkmate him. Moreover, it seemed, as if he was right. Chen Hao couldn't help but despise himself in his heart. If Xiao Feng was only a trigger, then when he first met the immortal legend of Si Xian, he didn't seem to reject her at all. The immortal legend of the vast universe galaxy, the goddess in the hearts of countless cultivators. For a man with a strong desire to conquer her, she was indeed a great temptation. In addition to the fact that Xiao Feng was in the third life, from the very beginning, the contact between the two had revealed a certain taste. It seemed unstoppable and unavoidable, but in reality, whether Chen Hao admitted it or not, intentionally or not, his unintentional attitude towards Si Xian had stimulated her to turn into a curious cat. This was Chen Hao's instinctive behavior. And Si Xian's words of true nature had deeply touched Chen Hao. At the same time, an inexplicable panic surged in his heart. Just what kind of person was he? In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Within the training room of the inn, Chen Hao and Si Xian were both sitting cross-legged with their backs facing each other. They were both immersed in their cultivation and had forgotten the passage of time. After stepping into the great world of CND, this was the first time they were cultivating. Both of them could feel the strength and clarity of the heavenly Tao laws in the great world of CND. They were indeed much stronger than ancient chaos. Of course, the so-called strong wasn't the level of the supreme heaven Tao laws, and it was the strength of the fluctuations of the aura. If the heavenly Tao laws of the two great thousand worlds were compared to a kind of Tao mark, not to mention which of the two Tao marks was stronger, Chen Hao and Si Xian's realms could not determine which was stronger. Just from the strength of the aura, the heavenly Tao laws of the great thousand world of ancient chaos were like Tao marks that were about to exhaust their energy. The aura that was released was very weak, but the Tao marks of the great world of CND were clearly visible, and the aura was extremely strong. Even if they contained the same profound mysteries of Tao marks, there was no doubt that it would be much faster to comprehend them in the great world of CND. The great world of CND had gone through countless years and gathered the luck of countless top geniuses in the great thousand worlds. The foundation of the great world of CND was undoubtedly terrifying. This also caused Chen Hao and Si Xian to be immersed in their comprehension, so much so that they forgot to eat and sleep, and even forgot the passage of time. Ding dong. Ding dong, but they had forgotten that it did not mean that the inn would let them stay in forever. When the deposit reached a month's time limit, the runic doorbell rang in the training room. Both of them were startled awake at the same time. Damn. A month has passed. Chen Hao opened his eyes and said in surprise. Si Xian was also not satisfied. She looked at Chen Hao and said, "We have used up all the immortal crystal coins we paid." You should have said that we would stay in a worse room, but you insisted on staying in the best one, 1,600 immortal crystal coins a day. In a month's time, 50,000 immortal crystal coins had been used up, and only 2,000 immortal crystal coins were left. Do you think I lack money? Staying here is just to heal my injuries. Let's go to the Alliance Assessment Center. Qinhao said as he pulled Si Xian's hand and walked out. Real Martial City Alliance Assessment Center. According to Yilan, newcomers who had stepped into the great world of CND would be able to obtain basic information about the great world of CND. At the same time, this was also the assessment center for newcomers. Qinhao and Si Xian asked for directions in the inn and headed directly to the Alliance Assessment Center. Even so, the two of them had to fly for 2 hours before arriving. One could see how big real Martial City was. So many people. When the two of them arrived at the entrance of the assessment center, Si Xian said in surprise. There were countless young cultivators. Most of them were from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, while a small portion were from the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland and the Dao Severing True Immortals. Are they all here for the assessment? Si Xian asked through voice transmission. Is there a need to ask? The academies here are not like the sects in our world. Once you enter, you can leave and choose again at any time. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have the strength to pass the assessment of a stronger academy. Because of this, third-rate academies are third-rate academies. Even if true geniuses enter third-rate academies, they won't stay for long, and they won't be buried. Some academies naturally have to pay a price to retain their geniuses. Someone like me, hee. I knew you wouldn't be so kind. Si Xian frowned and transmitted her voice. She had run away from home, so when she stepped into the galaxy tunnel, Yilan didn't tell her in detail about the great world of CND. Up until now, basically all the information she knew was from Qinhao. Then should I take the assessment of a first-rate academy directly? Qinhao released Si Xian's hand. The two of them continued to walk quickly. Up to you, tell me the truth. Up to you. In any case, I won't image you. I'll just go to the same city as you when you take the assessment. At that time, wouldn't your woman hate me to death because I took a photo of you? My master will definitely scold me. Si Xian said seriously, but then her delicate body trembled. What are you doing? Don't be so agitated, we're Dao companions. Qinhao actually put his arm around Si Xian's waist and continued walking. This kind of intimate behavior was nothing special between Dao companions. However, they were pretending to be Dao companions. Apart from Qinhao's injury a month ago, walking hand in hand was the closest thing Si Xian and Qinhao had done. Damn fatty, don't take advantage of me. Si Xian used one hand to grab Qinhao's arm around her waist and walked hand in hand again. Her face was flushed red as she transmitted her voice to him. As the two of them talked, they arrived at a shop near the entrance. Just as Yilan said, the price was 100 times higher. They used 1,000 immortal crystal coins to buy a jade slip containing basic information about the great world of CND. Hiss. Qinhao directly fused the jade slip into his mind. What a big change. A few minutes later, Qinhao transmitted his voice to Si Xian with a trace of surprise on his face. Soon after, a light of memory emerged from between Qinhao's brows and was transmitted to Si Xian. It was very different from the great world of CND in Yilan's memory. Yilan had no memory of planet Hua, but it was one of the 3,000 main planets. Including the Great Transforming Star, the original main star had countless big and small cities. Now, each main star only had 10 big cities. Chapter 1168. The tens of thousands of planets with life under the jurisdiction of the main planet were cities as a whole. There was only one first-rate academy on each main planet, and it was located in the main city of one of the 10 major cities. On planet Dahua, it was in Dahua City. The highest level academy in true Martial City was only 100 second-rate academies, and 1,000 third-rate academies. Obviously, the great world of CND was now quite standardized. Jinxing Academy is ranked 12th, Qingming Academy is ranked 98th. Si Xian looked at Qinhao strangely and said. Not to mention herself, with the aura that Qinhao had shown at that time, it was obvious that the guard captain's enthusiastic recommendation was definitely a scam. There were a total of 100 second-rate academies in true Martial City, and Qingming Academy was ranked 98th, which was almost at the bottom. It was afraid that even the top third-rate academies could not compare. Through the information obtained through the Jade Slip, the two of them had a preliminary understanding of each academy in true Martial City. They were all second-rate academies, but there was a huge difference in the cultivation conditions and treatment they received after becoming a disciple. The higher the ranking, the better the treatment. In the same academy, cultivators of different realms would receive different treatment. The higher the realm, the better the treatment, but this was overall. For cultivators of the same realm, the stronger the combat power, the better the treatment. The best treatment in the Daluo Golden Wonderland was better than the worst treatment in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. It was just not as good as the best treatment in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. These treatment were the most basic. As long as one became a disciple of the academy, they would receive it. Most of the treatment was based on the academy's contribution points. This had nothing to do with realm or combat power, only contribution points. How is it? Now do you believe that the guard captain was a scam? Qinhao said with a smile. You're amazing, okay. It's not that I'm amazing, it's that you're too naive. I really don't know how you've lived for tens of millions of years. It's none of your business, damn fatty. Si Xian's face was slightly red, and she grabbed Qinhao's fat waist with one hand and pinched it hard. Okay, let's go for the assessment first. As long as you can meet the selection criteria of a second-rate academy, we will choose a stronger second-rate academy to take the assessment. Qinhao said. Yes. The two separated their hands. Si Xian glanced at Qinhao and turned to leave. A new world, a new beginning. She had once been a peak existence in vast universe galaxy, but here she was nothing more than a legend. Although she hadn't fallen to the bottom, she still felt a tremendous pressure. If it weren't for her following Qinhao here, she really wouldn't know where she would go. In a world filled with endless danger and cruelty, she felt like a sheep that had entered a pack of wolves. It was completely beyond her imagination. Otherwise, he wouldn't have met someone like Sima Duoli when he first came in. Therefore, at this moment, even though they were only separated into two teams of two different realms, Si Xian still felt a little reluctant. Shaking her head, her train of thought suddenly quickened. She was a character of the ancient Chaos Grand Thousand World. When did she become so weak? Qinhao watched as Si Xian stood behind the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's peak late-stage cultivators. He smiled at her and quickly went to Daluo Jinxian's peak late-stage cultivators. Different realms had different entrances for the assessment. Several hours later. Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz, huh? What's going on? It can't be measured. In the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's peak late-stage assessment area, the two old men in charge of the assessment were surprised to see the screen constantly fluctuating, but after a full minute, there was still a strange phenomenon of a result. This was an age test. Under normal circumstances, it only took 10 seconds to determine the specific age of a cultivator. But now, a full minute had passed, and the age of the woman was still fluctuating. The number was changing irregularly. It was the first time they had encountered such a strange situation. Bathed in endless immortal light and runes, Si Xian was extremely nervous at this moment. After waiting for several hours, it was her turn to take the test. The first test was her age, which was undoubtedly her weakness. The cultivators who took the test before her were at most 1,000,000 years old, and most of them were around 500,000 years old. But she was more than 60 million years old. She couldn't remember the exact number. Why isn't it out yet? Si Xian was already nervous and mentally prepared to be despised. But others passed the test in a few seconds and entered the next level. She had been taking the test for a full minute and still hadn't completed it. Could it be that the tester is broken? How is that possible? All the testers were condensed by true immortal kings. Have you ever heard of a broken one? But, what's going on? As long as it's a life, there's no reason why the specific number can't be measured. Let's try the next one. Alright. The two old men conversed. Beep. At this moment, the number on the display screen suddenly froze. What? This. It can't be, right? The two old men looked at the display screen, a little dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked. 143,834 years old. How was this possible? When Si Xian came in, the two old men had a rough estimation. This woman was definitely much older than them. She was at least 50 million years old. But the result of the test turned out to be more than 140,000 years old. She was much younger than the peak late-stage supreme being of Hongmeng. There must be a problem. Let's try the next one. The two old men couldn't believe this result. They directly asked Si Xian to temporarily push the test out and change it to the next tester. The result came out in 3 seconds. But the result was similar to what they had sensed. There was no problem. Then, they tested a few more testers, and they all met the requirements. After letting Si Xian enter the test again, it lasted for a full minute. Then, the display screen froze again. Finally, it stopped at 143,834 years old. Chen Si, right? What's your approximate age? The two testers called Si Xian in front of them and asked curiously. After verification, there was no problem with the tester. The problem could only be with Si Xian. About 50 million years old. Si Xian didn't see the result of her test and said nervously. Have you swallowed some heaven-defying heaven and earth spirit object that can prolong your lifespan? The results of our test here show that you are only 140,000 years old. Ah! Si Xian was shocked. Almost instantly, she thought of the 9 lives mystic technique. Her third life, Xiao Feng, was only 140,000 years old. But Si Xian knew that this couldn't be exposed no matter what. The 9 lives mystic technique of the Xiao clan's patriarch must have come from the great world of Xiandi. Moreover, it had a great relationship with Master. The reason why the great world of Xiandi became the forbidden land of ancient chaos cultivators was also related to Master. In a short moment, Si Xian regained her composure and said, received an inheritance and swallowed some strange fruits. It should be related to lifespan. As expected. No wonder your appearance doesn't show any signs of aging. The essence of your lifespan has been changed. This can be considered your talent. Let's calculate your age according to 140,000 years. Congratulations. Continue to test other items. After hearing Si Xian's words, one of the old men didn't doubt her and said directly. Beep. With a crisp sound, Si Xian's identity token was removed. Si Xian didn't dare to believe that this was real. 40,000. If her age was only 40,000, then how much would her test potential value increase? Go, don't worry. This is your secret, we shouldn't ask too much. It's just that your situation is too special, we will keep it a secret from you. Moreover, the final potential value result won't show the specific situation, only the final potential value. Thank you. Si Xian held the token and felt as if she was dreaming. She walked out of the two old men's monitoring room and entered the next test. She, who was the legend of not aging, actually became an extremely young existence in the same realm. Was this a joke? Until the end of the test, when she saw her name high up and the extremely eye-catching potential value, Si Xian was sure that she had hit the jackpot. Her age was calculated according to the third life of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Si Xian knew that her potential value was definitely unable to reflect her true situation. Very weak, because her third life was only the Daluo Golden Wonderland. But Si Xian naturally wouldn't say anything. Fuck, this little fatty is too awesome, right? I really couldn't tell. He actually has the qualifications to take the test of a first-rate academy. Too awesome. Just based on this potential value, in our true martial city, he can definitely choose any academy without taking the test. Yeah. I really didn't expect that just based on his aura, I wouldn't be able to sense it. While Si Xian was being stared at in shock by countless test takers, in the Daluo Golden Wonderland test area, Chen Hao had a humble smile on his face. He was also receiving the admiration of many young cultivators. Brother Li Yuan, hello. Can we get to know each other? Little girl, do you want to dual cultivate? I don't have any problems. The fee is very cheap, 10,000 immortal origin crystals per session. What are you talking about? Annoying. A female cultivator who wanted to befriend the genius fatty directly blushed after hearing Chen Hao's shameless words. She turned around and left. Fuck, what a shameless fatty. Many cultivators were speechless when they saw this scene. Not to mention that the girl who approached him had an original Yin body. Even if she didn't, if he wanted to charge a fee, he should have said it secretly. He actually dared to say it in front of so many people. He was really too shameless. Is it really only 10,000? However, what no one knew was that after Chen Hao purposely made the girl leave, several female voices suddenly sounded in his mind. Fuck, the fatty finally realized that in this cruel the great world of CND, there were too many people who were shameless, immoral, and unscrupulous for the sake of cultivation. Fuck, I'm still a big fatty now. If I were to change into my handsome and elegant self, what would happen? Of course, those who dared to send him voice transmissions were naturally fierce women who had lost their original Yin bodies. Chi! Chen Hao immediately covered his head and fled. The people of the Celestial Emperor were too enthusiastic, and he couldn't take it. Chapter 1169. Chi. Chen Hao covered his head and scurried away. Just as he rushed out of the entrance of the testing center, more than 20 true immortal Severing Dao elders mixed in with the crowd chased after him. No way. I've already suppressed them enough. With his powerful soul perception and the fact that the other party didn't hide their auras, how could Chen Hao not sense the probing and tracking of their divine senses? However, the astute Chen Hao didn't even need to think to know that these old men should be the recruitment staff of the various second-rate academies. When Chen Hao started the test, he had planned to get a potential value that wasn't too eye-catching, but still had to have a good potential value. If Si Xian's potential value was too low, he could use his advantage to request that his Dao companion, Si Xian, enter a second-rate academy together with him when he joined. However, Chen Hao didn't know the comprehensive calculation method of potential value, so he almost didn't reach the standard of a first-rate academy. In true martial city, this was a little too eye-catching. Fine, I wanted to keep a low profile, but since it's already like this, I'll try my best to negotiate. It'll be a waste if I don't. Thinking of this, Chen Hao stopped. Chi. More than 20 elders immediately came to Chen Hao's side. Seniors, what are you all doing? The fat on Chen Hao's face trembled. He seemed to be very surprised as he looked at the 20 or so old men who had surrounded him in an instant. Chen Hao noticed that although the 20 elders were looking at him, they also seemed to be looking at each other with provocative gazes. It was obvious that they were disdainful of the other party. Not far away, many elders shook their heads and didn't join the camp. Since you're all interested, let's compete fairly. As usual, we'll set the conditions in one go and let little brother Li Yuan choose. Do you have any objections? Just what I want. I have no objections. Chen Hao saw that the elders were talking among themselves and didn't answer him, so he frowned and asked, Wait, seniors, are you teachers of the various academies? That's right. The Old Man Academy is ranked 4th among the second-rate academies in the True Martial City, and is in no way inferior to the True Martial Academy's Clear Wind Academy. Haha. That's right. There isn't much of a difference between the top 30 or even the top 50 academies. The rankings are only for reference. Moreover, it's the rankings from last year. This year's rankings aren't certain. Old Man's Qianwu Academy is currently ranked 9th, another old man said proudly. There's no point in talking about this. Everyone, just state your conditions. Little brother Li Yuan, old man will explain to you that we will tell you our conditions in the form of a jade slip. After you read it, it is best for you to make a decision now. The 23 of us present here represent 23 academies. Moreover, we are all relatively strong second-rate academies in true martial city. You can refer to the ranking information. The main thing to consider is the conditions that we offer. This is very important to you. The top 3 academies won't come here for special recruitment. Even if you enter their academies, you won't be able to get what we offer. You have to believe me. Hello, Miss Chen. I'm sorry. Please make way. Miss Chen, my Dao companion is waiting for me. Please make way. Si Xian's life aura was very old. Originally, with her primordial Yin body and youthful appearance, many cultivators were tempted. Now that her potential value was almost enough to enter a first-rate academy, there was no doubt that her combat strength, comprehension, soul force, physical body, mental state, and willpower were all at a terrifying level. If she was younger and didn't drag others down, she would definitely meet the requirements of a first-rate academy. How could some cultivators not be tempted? Chi. Si Xian's face turned green. She did not expect that when her potential value was revealed, she would be surrounded by young cultivators while she was in a daze. Their enthusiasm was exaggerated. Si Xian had no choice but to activate her majestic protective aura and force her way out. So it's like this. However, I can't make the decision. Let's wait for my Dao companion to come out. I'll enter whichever academy she chooses, Qin Hao said without hesitation after hearing the old man's words. Fatty. At this moment, Si Xian locked onto Qin Hao's aura and rushed over like a bolt of lightning. Cici. Qin Hao's fat face suddenly revealed a bright smile. However, when he saw more than 20 old men chasing after Si Xian, he immediately revealed a surprised expression. At the same time, the old man following Qin Hao and the old man chasing after Si Xian were also surprised. The more than 20 old men on Qin Hao's side immediately exchanged glances with the more than 20 old men behind Si Xian. Moreover, there were exactly 23 people, no more and no less. Almost at the same time, one by one, they stared at each other. The people on Qin Hao's side immediately thought that the other party had come to snatch the little fatty from him. Obviously, they had received news about the little fatty's potential value. Although they were also surprised by Si Xian's appearance, they didn't think that those old men from the same academy as them were chasing after Si Xian. As for the old man chasing after Si Xian, he couldn't sense how strong the little fatty was. He thought that these 23 people had received news about Si Xian's potential value and intercepted her. What are you doing here? We're each in charge of our own areas. There's no need for this, right? What are you talking about? She's one of your people just because she's in your area. 2 of them spoke up directly. What's going on? Chen Hao couldn't react in time. He pulled Si Xian, who had an ugly expression, and asked telepathically. I don't know either. They followed us as soon as we left. At this moment, Chen Hao transmitted his voice to Si Xian when he heard the 2 old men's tit-for-tat conversation. Fuck, it looks like they're all here for me. It's an internal conflict. Si Xian was slightly taken aback. Just as she was about to say something, Chen Hao said directly, Seniors, this is my Dao companion. I'll go to whichever academy she chooses. This is our only condition. You can name it as you wish. Both sides frowned and then said in unison, if there are 2 of you, the conditions we name will have a great impact. Moreover, the treatment you'll receive will definitely be different. Ahem, seniors, we're Dao companions. Although our realms are different, my condition is that we'll receive the same treatment in our respective realms. I'll leave it to you. Qin Hao said without hesitation. Isn't this little fatty a little too nice to his Dao companion? The old men on Qin Hao's side thought to themselves. Fuck, this little fatty is too shameless, isn't he? Chen Si should be the one to say that. The old man beside Si Xian looked at Chen Hao with disdain and frowned. Well, my Dao companion is just a little older. She's very strong in all other aspects. Chen Hao added in order to fight for more benefits. She's just a little older. Fuck, she's probably tens of millions of years older than us. Nonsense, do I need you to say that? This fatty is really shameless. When the two sides heard Chen Hao's words, they cursed in their hearts again. Fatty. Right at this moment, Si Xian knew that she had to say something. She pulled Chen Hao's hand and called out. She didn't transmit her voice. Well, my potential value, it's fine. We're Dao companions. We'll advance and retreat together. It's not my potential value, I already said. Chen Hao waved his hand and wanted to talk to Si Xian again. But this time, Si Xian directly interrupted Chen Hao and said, my potential value is close to a first-rate academy. I'm only 10 points away. Ah! Chen Hao cried out in surprise. At the same time, the old men on Chen Hao's side also had a great change in expression. You're chasing her. Not for the little fatty. Little fatty. Although the little fatty's age and aura aren't bad, as for making us, you're doing it for the little fatty. Until now, both sides were angry at the other side for spearing people. Both sides, who had serious communication problems, were stunned. Similarly stunned was the fatty who stared at Si Xian with a puzzled expression. No matter how Chen Hao thought about it, he couldn't understand how Si Xian's potential value could be close to participating in a first-rate academy's exam. How could he not be clear about Si Xian's situation? Because the effect of age on potential value was at best close to the bottom line of a second-rate academy. Don't look at me like that, it's the truth. Si Xian's face was crimson red. She could ignore many old men, who were younger than her, but she couldn't stand the fatty's radiant gaze and the focus on her from head to toe. Brother knows you're better than me. You're indeed better than me. What nonsense, what nonsense. Can the test value be fake? Brother is 11 points away. Ha! Chen Hao deliberately said in an extra pleased tone. Although he didn't know what was going on, there must be something hidden. As for what it was, of course, it wasn't a matter to pursue at this time. The higher Si Xian's score was, the better the conditions they could obtain. Only an idiot would ask for the reason. It would be an idiot if he didn't exaggerate. Seniors, you've also seen it. This is the reason why I want to listen to my Dao companion. Sure enough, there's no exception. Every time, she's a little bit stronger than me. You can state your conditions. As you wish, as you wish. The fatty's face once again turned into a blooming chrysanthemum. However, when the dozens of old men heard his tone and saw his expression, they all frowned and stared at Chen Hao. This was obviously a fucking extortion expression. Wait a moment. After understanding the situation, the two groups instantly lost their hostility. Furthermore, the two old men from the respective schools also looked at each other. Obviously, the competition between the two schools was also very intense. Now, the schools naturally had to plan together and state their conditions to target the two of them. This way, they would have a higher chance of obtaining two top-notch second-rate geniuses. Fuck, a fatty, and he's even Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Chen Si's Dao companion is so weak. How can she compare to me? What a beautiful woman. She's so old. Primordial in body. This little fatty. Looks like he's not a casual person. But it doesn't matter. There's no cat that doesn't steal fish. Let's see which school she chooses. I'll decide which one to take. Black Mountain Mathematics was taught by a language teacher. Sorry. There was an extra 10 in the previous chapter's serial number. Today's chapter will be changed. This is the last day of the month. If you have a monthly ticket, please support Black Mountain. Chapter 1170. While Chen Hao and Si Xian were surrounded by 46 elders, 2 people from each academy were secretly discussing what kind of conditions they could offer to win over the 2 geniuses, Chen Hao and Si Xian. Of course, there were also those who were interested in Chen Hao or Si Xian who had come out of the 2 testing centers. Of course, those who chased after Chen Hao were basically women who had been attracted by the fatties, 10,000 per session, offer. And those who chased after Si Xian were naturally men who wanted to pursue Si Xian, and naturally, they couldn't be too bad of a man. If they didn't have some skills, they wouldn't be able to catch up. Talent is really enviable. Being targeted by so many elders from second-rate academies, there's definitely no need for the selection test, and they can even get extremely good treatment. It's just that these 2 don't look like they have high potential. When the surrounding cultivators saw such a lineup, they naturally knew what those elders wanted to do. But no matter how they looked at it, Chen Hao and Si Xian didn't look like geniuses, especially Si Xian. Just her life aura alone should be enough to deny everything. Si Xian, looks like you're very popular. There are so many handsome guys with decent talent. Are you moved? When more and more people gathered around and many burning gazes fell on Si Xian, Chen Hao held Si Xian's hand and transmitted his voice. Go to hell. Si Xian was instantly angry. The people in this world are really. You're already like this, and there are so many of them. Are you very excited? Do I look like that kind of person? 10,000 is simply a dream. What 10,000? Someone offered 10,000 immortal crystal coins to dual cultivate with me once. Chen Hao said shamelessly. Si Xian stared speechlessly. Who do you think I am? 10,000. What about 100,000? Si Xian didn't know that Chen Hao, this shameless guy, was deliberately tempting her. The feeling he gave her was that this guy completely thought the money was too little, not that he couldn't do it. Therefore, Si Xian looked at Chen Hao in disdain and directly increased the price to interrogate him. 100,000? I'm not a casual person. The fatty was disdainful. 1 million. 1 million. I can be yours tonight, you, humph, I knew you weren't a good person. Si Xian said disdainfully, her face flushed red. She naturally knew that Chen Hao was joking. Go on, Cici, it's not over yet. What's not over? 10 million. 10 million. You can treat me as if I'm not human. How disgusting, 100 million, no matter how many of you come. I don't care if you're a human or not. Pooh. The 2 of them were talking through voice transmission, but at this time, Si Xian directly burst out laughing. Her face was red with embarrassment, and she hurriedly covered her mouth with one hand. She held Chen Hao's hand and pinched it hard. This damn fatty was too shameless and disgusting. Why aren't they doing well? It's too slow. Hurry them up. After a full 10 minutes, more and more cultivators gathered around them. Moreover, they were all discussing Chen Hao and Si Xian. Si Xian couldn't help but send a voice transmission to Chen Hao. Use your brain a little. Why are you rushing them? This is a matter of mutual benefit. The longer it takes, the better it is for us. Why? Didn't you hear the discussion around us? Groups of people who want to steal from us. Whichever school we choose, there will be many people who will choose to join us. How can these old fellows not know? I'm afraid this is the reason why they stopped us here and talked in front of everyone. Chen Hao didn't need to think and said directly. I see. Si Xian said in realization. Sigh, I didn't believe it when they said that women with big breasts have no brains, go to hell. Si Xian was once again embarrassed by Chen Hao, and she was extremely angry. However, Si Xian didn't know that she, who had lived for tens of millions of years, had completely turned into a coquettish young girl when she was with Chen Hao. She might not have fallen into the river of love, but she was at least halfway there. It was just that she didn't feel it. It's about time, right? Finally, after a full half an hour, an old man spoke first. All right, let's begin then. The other old men didn't object and agreed one after another. Chi 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 chi. Soon after, the two old men formed two jade slips at the same time and offered them to Chen Hao and Si Xian respectively. Our jade slips are made in duplicate, and the contents are the same for both of you. After you've read it, make your choice and sign the contract. This is also the rule of fair competition. Do you have any problems? The old man who spoke first spoke again. No problem. I hate people who go back on their words the most. Using a knife to the left and a sword to the right to obtain the greatest benefits. That kind of immoral thing is very boring. Seniors, please don't worry. However, I hope you don't mind which one we choose. We'll choose whichever one offers the most suitable conditions for us. Even if we can't do business, we can still be friends. Well said. Little fatty isn't simple. The dozens of old men either praised him or secretly praised him in their hearts. Chen Hao and Si Xian looked at each other and began to read the information in the jade slips at the same time. After 3 minutes, the two of them finished reading and both of them frowned in contemplation. Soon after, the two of them began to communicate via voice transmission, discussing which one to choose. At this time, the 46 old men were staring at the two of them without blinking. Their eyes were filled with strong anticipation, and their expressions were also a little nervous. A pair of Taoist companions, and a pair of Taoist companions who had the potential value of a first-rate academy without going through dual cultivation, was definitely very important to a second-rate academy. Moreover, they were certain that Chen Hao and Si Xian were definitely newcomers who had just entered the great world of CND. Otherwise, the two of them definitely wouldn't have stayed in true Martial City and would have gone to Dehua City long ago to challenge a first-rate academy. 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, for life, which one do we choose? Si Xian asked via voice transmission. The conditions offered by the 23 academies all had a time limit. The shortest was 1,000 years, followed by 1,000 years for life. The longer the contract was signed, the higher the level of treatment received. This was obviously arranged according to the Academy ranking tournament that occurred once every 1,000 years. Chen Hao and Si Xian had a choice. Within the time limit set by the contract, the two of them couldn't leave the Academy. First, tell me, what's up with your potential value? The age measured is the age of my third anima, no way. Chen Hao said in surprise. If that's the case, then why is my age the same as my original body's? Chen Hao's seventh anima was born before coming to the great world of CND. Right now, he was still a little brat. How would I know? I was tested twice, and both times I was at the age of my third anima. The tester asked me if I had swallowed any spiritual objects of heaven and earth, and I said yes. However, it should be because your 9 lives profound technique is different from mine. I fused with it, but I couldn't separate it as thoroughly as you. Chapter 1171. But you haven't fused with it yet. Chen Hao said with a frown. I haven't truly fused with it yet. Because of what happened in the foreign battlefield, the third anima connected with me, except for my memories. No, I don't think that's the reason. Their age-measuring device's calculation should be based on one's realm and current vitality. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Let's choose 1,000 years. It's meaningless to wait too long for a second-rate academy. Which academy should we choose? Chen Hao said. Up to you. I don't care, then Jinxing Academy. Jinxing. Damn fatty, you can't be thinking about that pretty sister of yours, right? Si Xian said after a slight pause. Fuck, can't you be a little healthier? Fan Ling and Zhou Yuchen are both pretty good. They have an aura of righteousness and are worth making friends with, especially for you. What does that have to do with me? Si Xian said with a glare. Chen Hao choked on his words. One more friend meant one more path. Especially for people like Chen Hao and Si Xian, who had just stepped into a foreign world, how could they isolate themselves if they wanted to integrate into this world? Relationships, and making friends were undoubtedly the best ways. Otherwise, they would always be isolated in their hearts and would never be able to truly integrate into this world. Chen Hao chose Jinxing Academy for two reasons. First, the conditions offered by Jinxing Academy weren't worse than any of the others. Combined with its ranking, it was the best one. Second, they had met once and could be considered friends. After all, Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen were acquaintances. This was a good thing for him and Si Xian. Especially for Si Xian. After all, Chen Hao was just a Daluo Jinxian. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he stepped into the Hongmeng domain. If you think Jinxing Academy is suitable, then so be it. I have no objections. Why do you have such an expression? Si Xian continued. Let's talk about it later. Chen Hao said. After he finished speaking, a troubled expression appeared on his chubby face. He looked at the surrounding elders who were filled with anticipation and nervousness. Seniors, thank you very much for your favor. This junior wishes that he could split it into 23 and agree to all of you. It's really hard to choose. The conditions that you all have offered, and the rankings that you all have, are all things that this junior cannot refuse. Little brother Li Yuan, just tell us the result. It's a fair competition. No matter which one you choose, no one will blame you. Alright. The academy that we've chosen has offered similar conditions to everyone else. Our ranking is only in the middle among all of you. After hearing Chen Hao said, only a few of the 23 academies, those ranked at the front ants, SSSS. Our choice is. Little fatty, wait. Just as Chen Hao was about to announce the result, the void suddenly shook, and a space-time gate appeared. A figure with a terrifying aura stepped out of the gate and shouted at Chen Hao from afar. Celestial light lingered in the air, and endless pressure poured down. At this moment, everyone looked at the void in shock. Although the pressure was not targeted at anyone, the cultivators present, including the 46 powerful true immortals of the cutting path, all had a slight change in expression. Their expressions were dull. The young and old participants, as well as the onlookers, were all stunned. What's going on? He's so powerful. He's at least a Dao Severing perfected immortal, Dahua Academy. Finally, when the celestial light dissipated from the newcomer's body, someone recognized the insignia on the newcomer's chest. It was Dahua Academy. The only first-class academy on Dahua planet was located in Dahua City. At this moment, everyone stared blankly. Everyone had heard the newcomer's voice when he stopped Little Fatty. However, how did Chen Hao and Si Xian attract the experts of Dahua Academy? Although their potential was already the best in True Martial City, and the second-class academies in True Martial City were fighting over them, they were only the best of the second-class academies. They were still a little short of meeting the most basic assessment requirements of a first-class academy. No matter how one looked at it, the two of them should not have attracted the attention of Dahua Academy. Chen Hao and Si Xian, who had regained their senses, were also puzzled. Fellow cultivators, I'm Tan Linhai of Dahua Academy's True Martial Pavilion. Our pavilion master is also interested in Li Yuan and Chen Si. The cultivator with a terrifying aura directly stated his purpose. The cultivators present were in an uproar. The 46 elders from the second-class academies were also a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Under normal circumstances, the Big Talk academies would never compete with the second-rate academies for students. However, those who were talented and had confidence in themselves did not need to be recruited by the Big Talk academies. They would participate in the examination of the Big Talk academies on their own. Unless the cultivators' talent was so great that even the first-class academies of other planets were tempted, they would take the initiative to recruit them. However, in that case, their potential value was undoubtedly at a terrifying level. Little Fatty and Si Xian's potential value was not even enough to qualify for the first-class academy's assessment. Since Dahua Academy has taken a liking to them, we'll forget about it. Li Yuan, Chen Si, congratulations. The elders in the front and back of the academy said directly. In any case, although Qinhao did not announce the results, he had already told them that the academy he had chosen was one of the middle-ranked academies among them. Teacher Tan, can you tell us what's going on? Li Yuan and Qin Si's potential value is not enough to qualify for the first-class academy's assessment. Someone asked. Sorry, our pavilion master just happened to be at the Dahua Planet Alliance's assessment headquarters and saw their assessment information. I'm also very curious about the specific reason. However, whether or not they can be specially recruited into Dahua Academy requires our pavilion master to meet them personally before he can make a decision, Tan Linhai said, then looked at Qinhao and Si Xian. Are the two of you willing to come with me? Yes. Of course. To be able to enter a first-class academy. It's a dream. Qinhao seemed to be very excited and said, but his heart was completely different. Exceeding expectations meant that they were out of control. Why would a first-class academy take a liking to them whose potential value was only at the top of the second-class academies? Why would their assessment information attract the attention of the pavilion master of Dahua Academy's true martial pavilion? What was it that attracted his attention? What did he discover? Qinhao and Si Xian could not help but worry about these. However, at this moment, the two of them could not reject the olive branch thrown by a first-class academy. Otherwise, it would be too strange. First update, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1172. With the emergence of the University of Dahua, the 23 second-rate academies that were fighting over Qinhao and Si Xian were left with no choice. As the name suggested, the True Martial Pavilion of the University of Dahua was responsible for the True Martial City, one of the top 10 cities on Dahua. If the cultivators from the 100 second-rate academies and 1,000 third-rate academies in the True Martial City met the requirements of the first-rate academies, they would choose the University of Dahua. Once they were accepted, they would become disciples of the True Martial Pavilion of the University of Dahua. Unlucky. What a waste of time. The University of Dahua's hands are getting bigger and bigger. After Qinhao and Si Xian were taken away by Tan Linhai through the space-time gate, the elders of the 23 academies were all gloomy. Some of the cultivators who had designs on Qinhao and Si Xian, at this time, other than sighing with envy and jealousy, they did not have any other thoughts. To be chosen by the pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion of the University of Dahua, and to specially send people to take Qinhao and Si Xian away, it was almost certain that the two of them were very lucky to be specially recruited without having to take the exam. In less than a day, the news that Qinhao and Si Xian, this special couple, were taken away by a teacher from the University of Dahua spread throughout the True Martial City. Fuck. Headhunter Sima Duoli, who had lost face after being defeated by Qinhao, was both surprised and depressed when he heard the news. It was basically impossible for him to get back his face. When Fan Ling and Zhou Yuchen heard the news, they were also extremely shocked. Although Zhou Yuchen had seen from the beginning that the two of them were not simple, she did not expect their potential value to be close to the level of being qualified to take the test of a first-rate academy. What was more surprising was that they were chosen by the University of Dahua. This meant that the little fatty and his couple had hidden abilities. Otherwise, the University of Dahua would not have taken the initiative to recruit them. Little fatty, how long have you been in the peak late stage of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland? Senior, less than 2,000 years. Just call me Teacher Tan. Don't be so formal. I was just brushing them off. When the pavilion master received my recommendation and saw your test information, he had already approved the recruitment of the two of you into the True Martial Pavilion. Don't be surprised. I only heard about you through my old friend Du Minghui. Du Minghui? Qinhao and Si Xian both frowned, feeling even more puzzled. Who was Du Minghui? They didn't know him at all. In the great world of CND, there was no one he knew. Like you, Du Minghui was born in the chaotic boundless world. A month ago, he was the one who presided over the bet between you and a cultivator. He recommended it to me after he saw the extent of your comprehension of the heavenly wasteland scripture and the great teleportation technique. So that's how it is. I knew it. However, Teacher Tan, my Dao companion and I haven't even reached the lowest standard for the assessment of a first-rate academy. It's not there yet, but it's close. Moreover, you have just stepped into the great world of CND. No matter where you came from, after you arrived at the great world of CND, you will advance by leaps and bounds in the beginning. In fact, the two of you only need to cultivate for about 100 years, and you will easily reach the bottom line for the assessment of a first-rate academy. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, the Pavilion Master admires you very much for being able to comprehend the great teleportation technique to the ultimate level of your own realm. Furthermore, you have not stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, but you have already integrated the mysteries of space and time. This is very rare. Just based on these 2 points, you are qualified to enter the Big Word Academy. As for Qin Si, you are unexpected. Tan Lin Hai looked at Si Xian and said, I didn't expect your potential value to be so high. After all, your life aura will greatly reduce your potential value. However, I didn't expect that even so, you have reached the bottom line of a first-rate academy. According to the Pavilion Master's judgment, it's not that you are strong in other aspects, but that your age test value did not affect your potential value. Am I right? Yes, as for the specific reason, we won't ask too much. The Pavilion Master has taken a fancy to little Fatty, and you two are Dao companions. Moreover, your potential value will reach the standard very soon. Therefore, the Pavilion Master has decided to specially recruit the two of you together. Tan Lin Hai communicated with Qin Hao and Si Xian as they shuttled quickly through the chaotic space. When he came, he had borrowed the Pavilion Master's space-time gate. When he returned, he could only rely on himself to fly. Although the Great Transformation City and the True Martial City were both on the Great Transformation Planet, the Great Transformation Planet was simply too huge. Even Tan Lin Hai, a sixth heaven true immortal severing Dao expert, had to fly for several hours in the chaotic space while carrying Qin Hao and Si Xian. The conversation along the way made Qin Hao and Si Xian feel slightly uneasy. They were afraid that the other party would see through some clues, but they were also relieved. It could be said that they were really lucky. Being able to enter a first-rate academy was undoubtedly a good thing for Qin Hao and Si Xian. Previously, the most important reason why Qin Hao deliberately kept a low profile was because of Si Xian. Si Xian said that she did not want to be a burden to Qin Hao, but how could Qin Hao not care about her? According to Qin Hao's judgment, Si Xian's potential value barely met the requirements to enter a second-rate academy. However, Si Xian was surprised that she was close to the bottom line of the first-rate academy's assessment. During the battle with Sima Duoli, the leader of the law enforcement officers, Du Minghui, happened to be from the chaotic vast thousand world. As Qin Hao had displayed the heavenly wasteland scripture, he was regarded as a fellow countryman. Du Minghui recommended Qin Hao to his old friend Tan Lin Hai because of the profound realm of the heavenly wasteland scripture that Qin Hao had displayed. In the end, Qin Hao and Si Xian were directly qualified to enter a first-rate academy. There was no doubt that Qin Hao and Si Xian were almost done in one step. Chi. After several hours, Tan Lin Hai broke through the space barrier and appeared in the space of the Great Transformation Planet with Qin Hao and Si Xian. This is the Great Transformation City. The first city of the Great Transformation Planet, the area of which is equivalent to 10,000 large planets. It is also the strongest and largest city of the Great Transformation Planet. The Great Transformation Planet is the place where the Qi of heaven and earth converges. It is much stronger than the real martial arts city and the other 9 cities. The 9 cities are also distributed in 9 directions of the Great Transformation City. What a strong aura! Qin Hao's fat face revealed an excited expression. Si Xian also opened her eyes wide and looked down. Of course. We are now at the center of the entire Great Transformation City. Look, the tallest palace below us is the Great Transformation College. Ah. A palace? Before you came to the great world of CND, didn't your elders introduce you to it? Tan Lin Hai was surprised when he saw Qin Hao and Si Xian's surprised expressions. Ahem. Teacher Tan, to be honest, Si Xian and I acted first and reported later. We left a message, and eloped. Besides the information that we bought at the entrance of the testing center, we basically know nothing. Chen Hao scratched his head and said a little awkwardly. Si Xian's face flushed red when she heard Chen Hao's words. However, it was true that she and Chen Hao had a limited understanding of the great world of CND. Yilan's knowledge of the great world of CND was too old. The great world of CND today had undergone earth-shattering changes. The information that Chen Hao and Si Xian obtained at the entrance of the testing center could not be so detailed as to cover the problems that everyone knew. Eloped. Tan Linhai glanced at the two of them and understood what was going on. The terrifying age gap between the two of them must have been obstructed by their families. 50 million years ago, the great world of CND was divided into 3,000 main planets, which were formed by the fusion of countless planets. The cultivators on each planet gathered into 10 major cities. The huge number of cultivators also allowed each palace to have a strong spatial law. It could be said that each palace in the entire city was a different world. Moreover, the more powerful it was, the smaller it looked from the outside world. Alright, I'll send you to the testing square of the University of Dahua first. Testing square. Teacher Tan, do we still have to take the test? Of course. Although you're specially recruited, you still have to take the test. This is related to your treatment. The University of Dahua is the only first-class school in the Great Transforming Planet. The test will begin after the number of people taking the test reaches 10,000. Under normal circumstances, different realms would have to wait for at most 10 years. During this time, you can only wait at the testing square. Don't worry, it won't be boring. The Pavilion Master has approved your special recruitment. No matter what your ranking is, you won't be eliminated. However, if you want to receive better treatment, it will depend on your true abilities, Tan Linhai said with a smile. A few minutes later, Chen Hao and Si Xian were sent to the testing squares of their respective realms by Tan Linhai. What a powerful aura! After Si Xian stepped into the testing square of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm alone, she was shocked by the powerful auras. 1834th place. The moment Si Xian appeared, the cultivators sitting cross-legged in the square all looked over with probing gazes and divine consciousness. Si Xian entered at 1834th place. Obviously, it would take some time for her to reach 10,000. No one stood up, but there was no doubt that Si Xian's appearance, life aura, and strength had attracted everyone's astonishment. She's so old, but her potential value has reached the test standard. Doesn't that mean her physical body, soul, comprehension, state of mind, and so on are very strong? Strange, her aura seems a little weak. She's probably hiding it. This girl shouldn't be weak. Unlike when she appeared in the true martial city, since Si Xian could enter this square now, she must have met the requirements for her potential value or was specially recruited. However, no matter what, she couldn't be too bad. Otherwise, she wouldn't have qualified to enter. Si Xian's age and aura made the cultivators conclude that she must be very strong in other aspects. She's indeed much stronger. The moment Chen Hao appeared in the Daluo Golden Wonderland Square, he was as shocked as Si Xian. In the face of unscrupulous gazes, Chen Hao piled up a harmless smile on his face. After cupping his fists in all directions, he sat down cross-legged and spread out his powerful soul perception. This is a first-rate academy. How strong would a top-tier academy be? In a moment, Chen Hao caught several auras that really surprised him. Judging from these auras, Chen Hao could be sure that with the current strength of his original body, even if he went all out, there was not much hope for him to take them down. Unless the 5 clones returned. Chapter 1173. Now that's interesting, Chen Hao's soul perception slowly spread throughout the square. As he discovered more and more experts, not only was he not afraid, but he was also faintly excited. According to Senior Yilan's estimation, my original body and the 5 great clones will definitely be qualified to enter a top-notch academy. If it's just my original body alone, it should be a top expert in a top-notch academy. Now it seems that, in the span of hundreds of millions of years, not only have the planets and cities of the great world of CND been combined and condensed, but the overall strength of the cultivators has also increased tremendously. There were only over 2,000 cultivators present, but Qinhao roughly estimated that there were at least 100 cultivators whose auras he did not have confidence in. If his original body was completely exposed, it would at most be close to the top ranks in a top-notch academy. After all, the people present were all newcomers who were going to take the assessment. There were many old foxes in the same realm in Dahua Academy. When Qinhao was sizing up the crowd, countless gazes gathered on him. Unfortunately, apart from discovering that Qinhao was very fat, no one present could discover anything special about him. Without Si Xian beside him, Qinhao was just a fatty. Among the cultivators who had obtained the qualifications to take the assessment of a top-notch academy, he was simply too mediocre. How cold, Qinhao discovered that many cultivators only glanced at him before closing their eyes again. It doesn't matter. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the heavenly Tao laws here have obviously been strengthened. I can cultivate properly. Qinhao decisively calmed his mind and closed his eyes. Unlike Qinhao, who was ignored, in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm area, not long after Si Xian sat down cross-legged, there were cultivators who took the initiative to greet her. There were both men and women. Fortunately, those who could make it here were all top-notch geniuses and had their own pride. Si Xian finally felt that she had met a normal person, and she quickly got to know several cultivators around her. Everyone, please continue chatting. I'm going to meditate. After a few people approached her, Si Xian spoke first after chatting with them for a while. Chen Si, I'm afraid you won't be able to meditate. A female cultivator looked at Chen Si and smiled. That's right. Chen Si, you've come at the right time today. The arena battle is about to begin. Since you're new, you'll have to participate. Fighting in the ring. I have to participate. Si Xian was slightly stunned. All of us have to take part. We still have to wait here for a few more years. In order to prevent us from wasting time, the Academy not only strengthened the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the Tao laws of the plaza, but also organized an arena battle every other month. The arena masters were all Hongmeng experts from the 10 great pavilions of the Academy. As for the newcomers who came in within a month, they had to participate. For those of us who have participated, if we need to fight, we can also challenge them. That's right, Chen Si. Show us your strength later, I'm really not that strong. Si Xian shook her head slightly. She was speaking the truth, but in the eyes of these people, she was just being modest. Wang. Qi. Qi. Not long after Qinhao entered a state of cultivation, the space above the square abruptly fluctuated violently. Next, the space barrier was cut open and an old man and 10 young men and women stepped into the square at the same time. What's going on? No one paid any attention to Qinhao, and he did not try to suck up to them. Therefore, when the old man and the 10 Daluo Golden Wonderland cultivators appeared in the square, Qinhao had no idea what was going on. The old man was obviously a teacher of the academy, a 6th firmament cutting path expert. The 10 young Daluo Golden Wonderland cultivators had the insignia of the Daoist Academy on their robes. Under the insignia, there were 2 small words, which were the names of the 10 great pavilions of the Daoist Academy. Newcomers, we hold an arena battle here once a month. Newcomers who came in this month must challenge the arena. This is a chance for everyone to showcase themselves and let the people present know who they are. Of course, after the newcomers have appeared, the others can also challenge the arena if they want to. Alright, I'll start the roll call now. Newcomers who have been called, please step forward. Qi. As the old man spoke, he waved his hand casually. The ground beneath him rumbled and rose, turning into an arena. Iron Man. Here. Qi. A powerful aura was released directly. With a swoosh, they stood in front of the old man, looking excited and full of fighting spirit. The old man called out the names one by one without any effect. In less than 3 minutes, a total of 62 newcomers, including Chen Hao who had just entered, arrived in front of the arena. The 10 arena masters are from the 10 great pavilions of the Daoist Academy. They are the top 100 disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland and take turns to be the masters. Since it's an arena, there are rewards. No matter who among you, no matter what method you use, as long as you can defeat any arena master, you will be specially recruited and receive the treatment of defeating the top 100 disciples of the arena master's pavilion. Shoo! As usual, the old man's speech was mainly targeted at Chen Hao and the other newcomers. It attracted a round of shoo from the cultivators who had arrived early. Defeating the top 100 experts of the various pavilions? That was basically impossible. More than 2,000 people had come, and the longest had been watching for more than 2 years. No one had been able to defeat the arena masters. Let me remind you, if you want to enter any pavilion, you have to challenge the arena master of that pavilion. Even if you can't defeat them, as long as you show that you are strong enough, you might be specially recruited and have no problem entering the pavilion. Do you have any questions? After the old man finished speaking, he looked at Chen Hao and the other 62 newcomers. Reporting, teacher. The others shook their heads. However, Chen Hao hesitated for a moment before raising his hand to report. Instantly, everyone's gaze was attracted to his face. Although he knew that this would happen, Chen Hao, who had just arrived and had yet to touch the ground, truly knew too little. Little fatty, Li Yuan, yes, you speak. The old man smiled and looked at Chen Hao who raised his hand to report. Teacher, I'm specially recruited and have confirmed my pavilion. Can I choose the arena master at will? Walla, damn, this little fatty is actually specially recruited? I can't tell. His aura is ordinary and he's just a little younger than me. To be specially recruited, there must be something extraordinary about him. Damn, this guy looks like a pig head. I can't tell which part of him is strong. Chen Hao's words caused many cultivators to be slightly surprised. They had no choice but to re-evaluate this little fatty who had just arrived but was basically ignored by all of them. Of course you can choose. There are no restrictions whether you are specially recruited or not. Of course, it's naturally best if you choose the pavilion you belong to. If you defeat the arena master of the other pavilions, then congratulations. You can choose from the 2 pavilions. The old man's eyes flashed as he stared at Chen Hao. Chapter 1174. However, the 10 great pavilions are set up according to the 10 great cities of the Great Transforming Star. Since you're from a city, you have priority in choosing the corresponding pavilion under the same conditions. The old man explained. Li Yuan, do you have any other questions? No, thank you, teacher. Chen Hao cupped his fists and said. The old man nodded slightly and looked at the other newcomers. Who else has any questions? Seeing that no one spoke, he continued, since there are no more questions, let's start now. Teacher Gu, I'll go first. At this moment, a young woman among the 10 great arena masters volunteered. Sure. The old man who was addressed as Teacher Gu replied. Chi. The female cultivator's figure flickered and appeared directly on the arena. However, the aura around her did not change at all. She was as calm as water, calm and composed. Only her eyes, which were as bright as stars, carried pride and confidence. I'm Wani Shui, a disciple of the True Martial Pavilion. I welcome cultivators from the True Martial City to challenge me. Of course, I welcome all of you to challenge me. Wani Shui said indifferently. Her gaze slowly swept across the 62 newcomers who had yet to fight in the arena. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but in the end, her gaze actually fell on Chen Hao. Me. Chen Hao looked left and right, then finally pointed at his nose and asked. Little fatty, our pavilion master has personally recruited you and even brought your Dao companion. This is a very rare thing. I think you must have some outstanding strength, right? But I'm sorry, I really can't see any special skills on you. So, I'm very curious. Wani Shui looked down at Chen Hao from the arena. Her eyes were bright and her aura was domineering. Before coming here, teacher Gu Chan, who was in charge of the Daluo Golden Wonderland Test Square, had told her about the past month, including information about Chen Hao, who had just arrived. He had been specially recruited by the pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion, and his Dao companion, which had surprised her greatly. It was not rare for someone to be specially recruited into the True Martial Pavilion. To be more precise, there would be at least 100 specially recruited disciples from the 10 great pavilions in the examination for every 10,000 people. However, most of them were done by the teachers of the True Martial Pavilion. It was extremely rare for someone to be specially recruited under the pavilion master's name. This meant that after Chen Hao entered the True Martial Pavilion, he had a very high chance of becoming the pavilion master's personal disciple. What's more, he had even specially recruited her as his Dao companion. Not to mention Wan Yishui, the top 100 disciples of the True Martial Pavilion, who were surprised, envious, and jealous. All the cultivators present looked at little Fatty, who had been ignored by them, in surprise after hearing Wan Yishui's words. Cough cough. Chen Hao's fat face revealed a hint of embarrassment as he said, "It was just a fluke, there's nothing special about it. Even if I have a specialty, it's only in some small aspects. It's not worth mentioning." Chen Hao originally wanted to say that he didn't have a specialty and was being modest, but he couldn't help but think of something in his mind and immediately changed his words. His white and fat face and small shining eyes immediately revealed an unconcealable wretched aura. "We'll know if you've tried it or not. Little Fatty, don't hide your strength. In the Academy of Dahua, the strong are respected. The stronger your strength is, the better the treatment you will receive." Wan Yishui frowned slightly. "This, sooner or later, what's there to hesitate about?" Someone shouted. "Little Fatty, senior sister Wan Yishui asked you to go up, so you go up, go up, go up." Then someone in the crowd shouted loudly, directly suppressing the voices of the others. Many people were slightly stunned when they heard this sentence, including Wan Yishui, who was already standing on the stage, who frowned slightly. Their eyes imperceptibly looked at the person who spoke, but the other party's face was filled with excitement and expectation, and there was no intention of teasing, so Wan Yishui didn't fly into a rage. The surrounding cultivators naturally pretended that they didn't feel anything. The benevolent saw benevolence, and the wise saw wisdom. The other party said it in a serious manner, so how could they treat it as teasing? Wasn't it just going up? It was indeed going up. Everyone was a serious person, so there was a problem with their thinking. "Go! Hurry up, don't waste time, go go go! Little Fatty, go 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 go!" In an instant, it turned into everyone urging Chen Hao to go up. The pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion personally recruited him, and he even brought his Taoist companion, so everyone wanted to know what this little Fatty with a very ordinary aura had. "Well, since senior sister Yishui wants me to go up, and everyone wants me to go up, then I will reluctantly go up." Chen Hao's face was tangled, staring at Wan Yishui with a helpless look. "Damn, this little Fatty is definitely a lecherous person, although he looks serious, but the depths of his eyes contain lewdness, wretchedness and flirtatiousness. How can he hide it from me, a fellow cultivator?" A figure in the crowd heard Chen Hao's words, and thought to himself. This figure was the first one who had said something ambiguous in a loud voice. His aura was not prominent in the crowd. But it was disguised. No one knew his true appearance and aura. Buzz! After Chen Hao finished speaking, his fat buttocks shook, and the ground shook. His whole person was like a meat bullet, catapulting onto the stage. "Little Fatty, take out your token." The moment Chen Hao ascended the arena, teacher Gu Chan, reminded him. The main purpose of the top 100 disciples coming to set up the stage was for the people present to observe and learn, and at the same time, to give the newcomers a chance to introduce themselves and perform, and to let everyone get to know each other. After all, those who could enter this place had potential value that met the standard or were specially recruited, and the number of people who were eliminated in the selection was very limited. This situation was completely different from the third-rate academies where anyone could participate in the assessment. But here, as long as one took out their token, the battle situation would be recorded in the token, and it would become one of the standards to measure one's achievements. Just like the challenge contract between Chen Hao and Sima Duoli in the true martial city, it required a token to complete. Yes, Teacher Gu. Chi. A golden light flashed, and Chen Hao's identity token appeared from between his eyebrows, and his name appeared above his head. Chi. It was also at this time that Wan Yishui's forehead also blossomed with a resplendent golden light, and the image of a token appeared. Above her head, her name also appeared, but what was different from Chen Hao's was that the symbol of the University of Fine Arts appeared behind her name, and below the symbol was an eye-catching number. 324, very strong. The Dahua Academy is ranked 324 in the same realm. She must be in the top 50 of the true martial pavilion. How can she be so strong? After seeing the number that appeared on Wan Yishui's token, the cultivators in the assessment square began to discuss. In the past year or so, the top 100 disciples had come to be the arena master nearly 20 times, and they were gradually getting stronger. Last time, the highest ranking of the 10 arena masters was only 611, and this time, Wan Yishui's ranking was 324. This ranking was really too high. Chapter 1176. This number was not purely a ranking of combat strength. The so-called top 100 experts were not the top 100 in terms of combat strength, but a combination of potential value, combat strength value, and contribution points. However, under normal circumstances, cultivators could basically think of this as a ranking of combat strength. This was because within the same realm, the higher the potential value, the stronger the combat strength. Under normal circumstances, the number of missions completed and the level of the combat strength would naturally be higher, and the contribution points would also be higher. These three aspects seemed to exist independently, but they complemented each other. It was very rare for one to stand out above the rest. Little fatty, you can attack as you please. You don't have to worry about anything. It's not a problem even if it's a battle of life and death. I'll control the entire process, Gu Chan said. Okay, make your move. Wan Yishui stared at Chen Hao and said. There was finally a slight change in the aura around her. It was like a rippling wave that spread out in all directions, and she became the source of the ripples in the center of the lake. Under the suffusing of this aura, Chen Hao felt as if he was wandering amidst clear waves, and he was gently caressed by layer upon layer of ripples, causing him to undulate along with the waves, sink up and down, roll up and down. Other than feeling comfortable and intoxicated, where was the feeling of being pressured by Tao laws? When Wan Yishui said, "Make your move," the cultivators outside the arena saw an extremely strange scene. Wan Yishui's black hair seemed to turn into clear blue waves, silently spreading out in the entire space. They, who were outside the arena, also did not feel any Tao laws or pressuring aura. However, they could clearly see with their naked eyes that little fatty Li Yuan revealed an intoxicated expression after replying to teacher Gu Chan's words. When they saw this scene, everyone already knew that Wan Yishui had already made her move at the first moment. Furthermore, she had directly absorbed little fatty's mind and made him fall into her Tao state. So good. Oh. Ah. Chen Hao's eyes were blurred as he muttered. His hands were lightly clenched, and his fat buttocks trembled. He had an intoxicated expression. Fuck. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Little fatty's expression is too ecstatic, is it that good? Many people revealed extremely surprised expressions. The little fatty had obviously sunk into Wan Yishui's Tao realm without any resistance. He had probably already lost himself, but this guy's expression, voice, and movements were really too ecstatic. The scene they saw was that Wan Yishui's fine black hair stretched out endlessly like clear waves as it drifted beside Chen Hao, lightly rubbing and dancing on his face, hands, and body. This was clearly a terrifying supreme art that Wan Yishui had cultivated to perfection. Yishui's black silk blue waves has improved again. The remaining 9 of the top 100 masters sat cross-legged in front of the arena, watching the situation in the arena. One of the cultivators with an imposing appearance stared at Wan Yishui with a trace of pride and complacency in his eyes as he praised softly. Really? Why do I feel that this little fatty's state of mind is too weak? I agree. He Ming, stop being so smug. Even if you've improved, you're not, it's useless to be jealous. Hearing the crowd's words, the cultivator called He Ming smiled and shook his head. He was Wan Yishui's Tao companion, a disciple of the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion. Jealous? There's no need for us to be jealous, right? We're just about the same as you guys. You guys are a little stronger, but that's also a matter of time. In time, it's hard to say who's stronger and who's weaker. One of them said. The 10 of them were all among the top 100 disciples of the top 10 pavilions. Because of their similar strength, they had met during a mission and formed a 10-person team. This time, they had just returned from their training and were caught to perform in front of the newcomers. This was undoubtedly a matter of increasing their reputation. As long as they looked at the eyes of the newcomers around them, a sense of superiority would spontaneously arise. In particular, if there were beautiful women who moved their hearts, it was undoubtedly a great thing for the single men among the 10. Those who strike first gain the upper hand, those who strike late suffer. Every time after the assessment of 10,000 people or 10 years had passed, not to mention cultivators of the same realm, even Hongmeng Supreme and Dao Severing perfected immortal cultivators would flock to see if there were any junior sisters that they liked. Of course, the gender was swapped, and vice versa. There were also many senior sisters who came to choose handsome men with great talent and potential. In a first-class academy, apart from cultivators above the Dao Severing perfected immortal realm, almost all the women of the lower realms were untainted. In other words, there were very few true Dao companions. However, an honorary Dao companion was a must. Otherwise, after one reached the Dao Severing stage, it would be difficult to even find a Dao companion that they liked. Wan Yishui did not move at all, but when she saw Chen Hao's appearance, she frowned and said, "It seems that your strength is not your state of mind. Then, change it." She did not make a move. At this time, she believed that if she made a move, the little fatty would definitely be caught off guard and be seriously injured and defeated. However, her goal was to test the little fatty's strength. Defeating the little fatty was meaningless to her. One of the top 100 disciples of the true martial pavilion, the Dahua Academy was ranked 324th in the same realm. What kind of concept was that? After all, the Dahua Academy was the only first-class academy in the entire star field under the jurisdiction of the Dahua Star. It was said that there were only 10 major cities, but the number of cultivators in the area covered by any one of these cities was comparable to half of the vast universe galaxy. Those who could enter a first-class academy were the top geniuses of the Dahua Star, and to be ranked 324th among the millions of cultivators of the same realm was definitely a genius among geniuses. She did not think that any of the newcomers present could defeat her, or any of the 10 of them. However, at this moment, Chen Hao, who seemed to be completely immersed in endless comfort, suddenly looked up and said, "Don't. Senior Sister Yishui, you really live up to your name. Shui is so comfortable. I'm still fine. Senior Sister Yishui, please continue." "Oh. So comfortable. Oh. Senior Sister Yishui, don't stop, don't stop. So comfortable." But at this moment, Chen Hao, who seemed to be completely immersed in endless comfort, suddenly looked up and said when Wan Yishui was about to withdraw the Azure Silk Blue Wave technique. "What? Ah." This time, not only did Wan Yishui cry out in surprise, but the other 9 of the top 10 experts also widened their eyes. This little fatty is indeed a little interesting. Teacher Gu Chan was also slightly stunned. He had sensed Chen Hao's state very clearly just now. It was clear that he was completely immersed in Wan Yishui's Azure Silk Blue Wave Dao realm. As long as Wan Yishui was willing, she could make a move at any time to catch the little fatty off guard and defeat him. However, when Wan Yishui said to retreat, the little fatty actually responded. In such a situation, the little fatty's mental state had already transcended Wan Yishui's Azure Silk Blue Wave Dao realm. Fuck. This little fatty's mental state is very strong. He didn't resist and took the initiative to fall into it. He was actually able to transcend it. One of the top 10 experts said in shock. TCH. It's just the azure silk blue wave Dao realm, but he made it seem like he was making love. So wretched, so shameless. His mental state is still so strong. Brother fatty, this little brother is impressed. The wretched man in the crowd who had been jeering looked at the fatty with shining eyes. Chapter 1177. He Ming, I'm not the one to cause trouble, but as a brother, there's something I have to say. What? Can't you tell? If I were you, I definitely wouldn't tolerate it. Look at that little fatty. His actions, his expression, and his words. He Ming was slightly taken aback. Soon after, he smiled and shook his head, not caring at all. Although this little fatty looked a bit wretched, Wan Yishui's azure silk blue ripple technique was originally a technique that allowed people to immerse themselves in the comfortable state of flowing water. As long as anyone's state of mind was invaded by it, they would be unable to extricate themselves from it. At that time, Wan Yishui would make his move. But this little fatty's state of mind clearly surpassed Wan Yishui's green silk jade ripple arts Dao realm. His heart was clear, detached, and always maintained a clear-headed state. From then on, it became true enjoyment. Shameless. He Ming could endure it, but Wan Yishui, who was directly facing Qinhao, blushed from the fatty's muttering and expression. He cursed in his heart, and at the same time activated a higher level of the azure silk jade wave art. Chi. Chi. Ah. Almost in an instant, thousands of strands of black hair suddenly fluttered softly, as if they had turned into the hands of a lover, coiling around the fatty's body, up and down. The Dao mark mysteries that were as gentle as water seemed to become 1,000 times more active. It gave Qinhao a feeling. It was as if he had been in an endless slumber before, and now, Wan Yishui's nimble black hair had stirred the strings of his slumber, and what was stirred was his soul. It was precisely because of this that the instant Wan Yishui activated the second realm, the little fatty instantly started moaning and making weird noises in front of everyone's eyes. It was as if he had sunk into a frenzy. Disregarding everything else, just the sound alone was enough to make everyone present feel numb and goosebumps all over their bodies, not to mention the little fatty's fat jiggling all over his body. He even closed his eyes and had an intoxicated look on his face as he kneaded his body with both hands. But just when Wan Yishui, He Ming, and the others thought that the little fatty had truly fallen, the groaning Qinhao once again opened his mouth. So satisfying, don't withdraw, continue. Senior sister Yishui, I love you to death, oh, be my Dao companion. What the, He Ming, it's not me, boom. This time, before a certain someone who wished for the whole world to be in chaos could finish his provocative words, He Ming exploded with a boom. He was just short of directly going into the ring in a fit of rage. Love? You feel great, but you actually dare to fucking confess your love to Wan Yishui in front of everyone. It's fine if you just want to express your gratitude and joke about it, but you actually dare to ask for love? Dao companion. Looking to die. Wan Yishui was so angry that she trembled. She didn't expect the little fatty to be so shameless, so bold, and so shameless. He actually confessed to her in front of so many people, especially her Dao companion. Boom. Chi. The thousands of strands of black hair that were like clear waves suddenly revealed their sharp fangs at this moment, transforming into numerous terrifying and sharp crystal lights that were like steel needles as they shot towards Qinhao. Although she hadn't tested how strong Qinhao's mental state was, and she still had the third and fourth layers, Wan Yishui didn't want to test it anymore. She only wanted to beat up the stupid fatty who didn't know his own limits. Whether it was her talent or appearance, she was a genius among geniuses in Dehua Academy, a first-rate existence. Even if the stupid fatty was specially recruited by the pavilion master, he might have some strong points, but how strong could he be? Just give him a bit of sunlight and he'll shine. If you say he's fat, he'll pant shamelessly. Why don't you take a piss and look in the mirror? How could he be worthy of her? Little fatty, do you believe that I won't crush you to death? Yishui is my Tao companion. Below the stage, He Ming roared angrily, loudly announcing his ownership rights. His aura surged and his long hair danced wildly, his aura exploding with anger, and his domineering aura pointing at Qin Hao's nose made all the cultivators below the stage speechless. They broke out in cold sweat for the seemingly heartless and ignorant little fatty. However, they had to admit that the little fatty was really too fierce. How could a toad not be fierce when he had the lofty sentiments of a swan? 324th place. The cultivators of Dehua Academy's Daluo Golden Wonderland were undoubtedly the most mobile. Under normal circumstances, it was normal for them to stay for around 1,000 years. Basically, after participating in the great world of CND's Academy ranking tournament once, they would die down. The next time they made a name for themselves, they would basically be in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. But even so, there were more than 1 million Daluo Jinxian cultivators who maintained an active status in Dehua Academy, and Wan Yishui's overall strength was ranked 324th out of 1 million people. The little fatty had no one, and in terms of talent and potential, he was definitely miles away from Wan Yishui. Even if he was specially recruited by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, he would at most have some talent and specialty in a certain aspect. After all, the little fatty's current aura was the best proof. If it was a battle, he would probably be completely ignored among them. Just like before, when Wan Yishui did not say that the little fatty was specially recruited by the pavilion master, no one paid any attention to Qin Hao at all. He Ming, what nonsense are you talking about? Wan Yishui, who had just transformed green silk blue wave technique into a supreme killing move, causing Qin Hao to scream like a pig being slaughtered, shaking his fat buttocks and scurrying away like a rat, quickly shuttling back and forth in the arena, became angry again when he heard He Ming's words. He directly turned his head to look at He Ming and said angrily. Although there was an ambiguous relationship between her and He Ming, the arrogant her had never admitted her relationship with He Ming, and it was impossible for her to admit it now. In this cruel cultivation world, she had only just arrived at the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Her vision would not be limited to Dehua Academy. After stepping into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, who knew what realm her talent and potential would reach? Moreover, she was confident in her appearance and the absolute art that she cultivated. In the future, if she could walk out of Dehua Academy and step into a top academy, she would definitely meet stronger pursuers. How could she tie herself to He Ming now? Men could have no scruples. But a woman who was bound by the primordialine body could only do it once in her life. How could the choice of a Tao companion be rash? Yishui, it's a matter of time. He Ming's expression changed, and a trace of embarrassment appeared in his eyes. But soon, it turned into anger and he said arrogantly. Ah. I'm sorry. Big brother, calm down. I didn't know that senior sister Yishui had such a powerful, tall, handsome, and domineering Tao companion like you. As the saying goes, a fair lady is a good match for a gentleman. Senior sister Yishui is one of the thousands of types that I, this fatty, admire. Big brother, are you convinced? What was unexpected was that the little fatty, who was covered in red dots and looked like a scalp numb, actually spoke to He Ming at this time. The red dots on his face, hands, and other exposed skin were like a mortal who had been pricked by needles. They flickered on his body, and Tao marks filled the air. Obviously, the close-range attack transformed from the green silk blue wave technique made it impossible for Qin Hao to dodge. Moreover, the wounds caused by the Tao laws contained, and Qin Hao had no way to remove them for the time being. Fortunately, this guy's skin was thick and his state of mind was strong, so his foundation was not injured. Chapter 1178. He Ming glared at the little fatty who was covered in red dots and had the urge to vomit. However, the little fatty's words made his anger dissipate immediately. It sounded too pleasing to the ears. He didn't think that the little fatty's words were flattering at all. Instead, he felt that the little fatty was definitely an honest person who said whatever he wanted to say. What he said was simply too honest and too correct. He was tall and powerful, handsome and domineering. Could it be fake? He was a top genius in the University of Dahua, more than 10 places higher than Wang Yishui. Countless beautiful girls pursued him. This was the best proof. The little fatty was absolutely telling the truth. At the same time, the little fatty expressed his attitude and didn't hide his praise and admiration for Wang Yishui. Who didn't like a powerful beauty? After knowing that Wang Yishui had such a powerful Taoist companion, even a goddess would take the initiative to retreat. He had to admit that although the little fatty's appearance was not good and his talent was average, he was casual and straightforward. He knew when to advance and retreat. You're too kind. He Ming, whose pores had relaxed, cupped his fists towards Chen Hao, who was on the arena from afar. As he spoke, the violent aura around him was also restrained, and a smile that was like the spring wind and rain appeared on his face. Chi 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 chi, boom boom boom. Wang Yishui was stunned for a moment, then suddenly became angry and violently attacked Chen Hao. This little fatty was really too spineless. He Ming's roar scared him to this extent. More importantly, didn't he hear that she didn't admit her relationship with He Ming? How dare he help? Buzz! Chen Hao's fat buttocks trembled, and his whole body suddenly turned into a wisp of smoke. His afterimages were as fast as lightning, and he made Wang Yishui's attack miss. He didn't even have to fight back. Big brother, you can't be modest. Look at senior sister Yishui. She's so charming when she's angry. Ah, chi 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 chi, damn fatty, see how I teach you a lesson today. Wang Yishui said angrily. He was furious that Chen Hao had chosen a couple in public to help He Ming. But it was definitely not true anger. She had to admit that although little fatty's words were annoying, they were still very effective. After all, which woman didn't like to be praised? Although she didn't put the fatty in her eyes at all, she was secretly happy that he was praising her beauty in front of everyone. Of course, she also thought that the fatty had good taste. Wang Yishui's black hair danced wildly for 3,000 feet, and her fingers and fists attacked mercilessly. Boundless and terrifying energy and pressure almost filled the entire arena space, violently and fiercely chasing after Chen Hao. However, under such attacks, little fatty, who was twisting his fat buttocks, became faster and faster. His figure flashed, and the mysteries of the great teleportation technique were pushed to the extreme. Sometimes, the world was close at hand, condensing 10,000 miles into a square inch. Sometimes, the world was far away, turning a square inch into a distance. The profundities of the spacetime laws had been fused into it, and it seemed to be slow but was actually fast, and it seemed to be fast but was actually slow. It was unpredictable and boundlessly profound. Senior sister Yishui, bring it on, ah. If you can't teach me a lesson today, then another day, ah. Senior sister's skills are so good. Ah. I like it so much. Another day. Ah. Another day. Ah. Another day. Ah. I'll come again another day. And in this state, Chen Hao, while dodging Wang Yishui's ferocious attacks, continued to speak intermittently, mixed with screams. Coupled with Wang Yishui's soul-stirring attacks and little fatty's extremely thrilling but wonderful dodging, most people didn't pay attention to little fatty's words at all. Of course, even if they did pay attention, most people wouldn't think too much about it. Benevolent people see benevolence, wise people see wisdom, perverted people see perverted people. Chen Hao was just playing with his mouth. In any case, the moment Chen Hao changed into this fatty's image, he positioned himself as a wretched guy with no moral integrity and no bottom line. However, he had to control the intensity, so as not to be annoying, but also not to be liked, especially by women. Fuck fuck fuck, so wretched, so shameless, my idol. Brother Fatty, Lord Fatty, you have to accept this little brother's kneeling, this little brother will follow you for sure. The wretched figure in the crowd, seeing little Fatty's fleshy buttocks trembling as he displayed his terrifying teleportation ability, was already extremely excited. Hearing Chen Hao's extremely wretched words, he was even more eager to fight. This little fatty is amazing. Gu Chan stood in the air above the stage with his hands behind his back, paying attention to Wan Yishui and Qin Hao's every move. From the beginning until now, no matter if it was Wan Yishui using the azure silk jade ripple technique, or the battle of words in the middle, or the crazy chase and bombardment now, he had always watched indifferently, not moving at all. But at this moment, seeing little Fatty's ghost-like teleportation, Gu Chan couldn't help but secretly praise him in his heart. The second time. When Qin Hao was intoxicated by the azure silk jade ripple technique, yet detached himself from it, he had secretly praised him once. Now, he couldn't help but praise him even more. No wonder he was specially recruited by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion. His temperament, wit, wretchedness, and shamelessness are all top-notch, his survivability is definitely strong. His state of mind is also strong, his comprehension is even stronger. Gu Chan thought to himself. The great teleportation technique was not some secret technique in the great world of CND, the only requirement was to obtain a high amount of contribution points to obtain the cultivation method. But to be able to cultivate the great teleportation technique to the ultimate realm, while not to say that it was unique, it was close to being extinct. This required an extremely high level of comprehension and talent to be possible. And this little fatty with a mediocre aura had actually done it. Just the speed of the great teleportation technique was already very shocking, but what was even more shocking was that he could still maintain this speed under Wan Yishui's terrifying pressure and Dao Law attacks. Without a doubt, this clearly told everyone that the little fatty's ability to suppress Dao marks was extremely powerful. At least, Wan Yishui, who was ranked 324th in the entire Great Luo Golden Immortal Realm, could not intimidate the little fatty in the slightest. Otherwise, he would not be able to teleport so quickly within the range of the pressure Dao marks. The only thing lacking is absolute power. That's right, little fatty's life aura is extremely young, younger than us, his cultivation accumulation is not enough. The possibility of this is naturally very high, but it could also be that his absolute power is lacking. After all, he is already at the peak late stage of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. That's true, but no matter what, this little fatty is still considered a character, his state of mind, willpower, comprehension, and physical body are all very strong, especially his comprehension. To be able to cultivate the great teleportation technique to such a level in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, he is truly amazing. While Gu Chan was exclaiming at little fatty's performance, the other 9 top 100 experts and the cultivators present were also getting more and more shocked, and began to buzz with discussion. Little fatty, if you have the guts, stop and spar with me. Senior sister Yishui, I have the guts. But I can't give it to you. Stop, as the saying goes, use your strength to attack your opponent's weakness, hee. Chapter 1179. From time to time, Qin Hao's screams were mixed in with his words, as if he had been caught off guard. The first or second time, the crowd might have thought that the little fatty had dodged the attack by luck, but every time he dodged the attack, the atmosphere was different. And Wan Yishui, who was in the middle of the battle, felt it even more deeply. By now, she could already be sure that this slippery fatty, who was as slippery as a loach, must have a strong talent in comprehension and the ability to withstand pressure of the physical body and soul. The strong ability of the physical body and soul to withstand pressure also reflected the strength of the soul, state of mind, and will. This meant that the little fatty's comprehension, soul force, will, state of mind, physical body, and other aspects were all strong. Especially his comprehension, to be able to comprehend the great teleportation technique to such a level, it was definitely not something an ordinary genius could do. The only thing he lacked was absolute power. Humph, if we were fighting in the outside world, it would be fine, but in the arena, you want to avoid me? After attacking for a long time without success, Wan Yishui, a top 100 expert, also felt ashamed. Knowing that if this continued, it would be impossible to take down the little fatty, she stopped, snorted, and said. As she spoke, her black hair danced wildly, and her hands slowly formed complex runes, constantly condensing in front of her. Chi 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 chi, with the birth of the light of the runes, the energy of heaven and earth in the space around Wan Yishui boiled and surged towards her. The runes became bigger and bigger, and the pressure and energy of the condensed Tao mark became stronger and stronger. Even though they were separated by the sealing enchantment of the ring, the cultivators below the ring could still feel the extremely terrifying pressure. As for Qin Hao, who was in the arena, there was no need to talk about it. The fat on his face trembled and his hair stood on end. Following the descent of Wan Yishui's ultimate move, his aura crazily soared. Chi! Rumble, buzz. Ah, rumble. Rumble, when the runes condensed by Wan Yishui blotted out the sky and suddenly bloomed, it directly swept across the entire arena and exploded with a loud bang. The fatty, on the other hand, activated his strongest protective aura, his fat buttocks swayed wildly, his body twisted, and shuttled back and forth in the terrifying, turbulent energy of the Tao Law. The fat body, which was already covered with spots, almost instantly had a blood-stained style, and at the same time, he let out a pig-like scream. However, Mr. Gu Chan's mind had already become highly focused due to the battle between the two. He could intervene at any time to interrupt the battle between the two. He wanted to intervene a few times, but he forcefully held himself back. When the entire stage was submerged in the terrifying rune attack that Wan Yishui had unleashed, everyone could no longer see the fatty's figure. However, his miserable cries that sounded like a pig being slaughtered continuously came out from the terrifying explosion, proving to everyone that although he was in a miserable state, he was still dealing with it and resisting. Chi! Chi! Rumble, Wan Yishui crazily urged herself. At this time, her heart was both shocked and stifled. How could this damn fatty be so abnormal? This move of hers was an all-around attack that contained everything she had learned and all her strength. She believed that in this arena, she would definitely be able to beat that damn fatty to the ground. But now, she discovered that this fatty, who possessed the abnormal speed of the great teleportation technique, had an abnormal resistance to attacks in his body and soul. If it was an ordinary person, even if they did not die, they would have been invaded by her Tao Law, and be completely injured and controlled. However, the fatty was shuttling back and forth between the weakest gaps of her rune attacks. He was repeatedly bombarded by terrifying energy, and his skin and flesh were torn open. However, he still maintained his agility, as if the one injured was not him. Chi! Chi! Wan Yishui pushed her mind and energy to the extreme, and the attacks that erupted from the huge rune became stronger and stronger. At this moment, she was like a burning flame, becoming more and more resplendent, hotter and hotter, climbing towards her limit. She was very clear that when the limit was reached, the flame would begin to extinguish. Ultimate moves, ultimate techniques, were like life, in harmony with nature. When the flame was at its brightest, it was also when it was about to extinguish. However, she was already riding a tiger and could not get off. One wrong step, and all the steps would be wrong. In order to take down Qin Hao, using this kind of large-scale attack that consumed a lot of spirit and energy was basically a tactic that could not be taken back. Under normal circumstances, she would only use it when she had absolute confidence. Otherwise, if she failed to achieve her goal, it would be the time of her defeat. Wan Yishui was also certain that the damn fatty would definitely not be able to withstand this move, but now, rumble. The rune finally released its final and strongest attack. Even the huge rune itself collapsed and disintegrated, turning into a dazzling and terrifying stream of light that surrounded the blood-soaked fatty. Ah! Wahahaha! Senior Sister Yishui, you can't blame me for this. It's you who couldn't hold it in, ha 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 ha. This fatty's favorite thing is to crush opponents who have exhausted their energy to death. Boom! The fatty, whose skin and flesh were lacerated, no longer looked like a human. However, his voice was full of energy and was filled with extreme excitement. The moment he finished speaking, he soared into the air with a rumble. His legs stretched out to both sides, as if he was riding a horse. His fists were clenched tightly on both sides of his body. His blood-stained and excited face looked down, and his entire center of gravity was on his big bottom. What made everyone even more dumbfounded was that this guy's bottom was actually surging with the light of mysterious runes. Ah, my mother, fuck, this is possible? TSK. What if this fatty sits on it with his fart? Damn, 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 damn. Lord Fatty is mighty. What a good but technique. Could it be? Could it be the legendary A Chrysanthemum Breaks the World? Looking at the fatty's trembling fat but that was blooming with the light of runes in the air, everyone was dumbfounded, tongue-tied, and dumbfounded. They had seen strange divine ability laws, but this kind of but technique that was obviously specially trained was really something no one had seen before. They then looked at Wani Shui, who had obviously used up all her energy and was standing there in a daze. Her face was pale, and her spirit was weak. She raised her head and stared at Wani Shui with her eyes wide open. Her delicate body was trembling, and her eyes were filled with fear. No one could imagine the scene of the fatty sitting on Wani Shui. Even if he couldn't crush her to death, he would die of shame. A dignified expert in the top 100, and a young girl at that, how could she be sat on by her butt? Little fatty, stop! He Ming let out a loud roar. With a loud bang, he leaped up and charged towards the arena. Damn fatty, you! You dare! In the stage, Wani Shui also roared with her eyes wide open. However, although the pressure released from the fatties but was not strong, to her who had exhausted her spirit, it was like a mountain pressing down on her.